But we back. Back in business, I don't know, man. SIS might have got on us. We might have been getting too deep. Soon as we bought a Kieth Cromer, all of a sudden the internet started freezing up. It could have been a computer though, so I'm on the phone now. We gonna get straight to it. We need 100 people in here though. Then yeah, he said 100 views. Then run it back, please. Okay, Gold. Shout out to Gold around the globe. Make sure y'all go subscribe to her channel. Make sure you go subscribe to my man 504 Street Stories Unplugged. Shout out to New Orleans, man. You think that's in his Skrilla? You already read this Skrilla? I don't really have no Andre Tank stories, but we could get ears to do that. We could get ears to do that, bro. Run the lines back up, y'all. We gonna get into the Chroma Jones soon as we get a few more people back in here. Any Chuck Brown Lawton stories? I'm gonna try to find some. Run the likes back up. Run the likes back up, they say, man. Let's get to it. Big Head Gary, a little older than me. I didn't know him, although he lived in my part of town. What up, E? When I'm gonna get my interview, bro? We could do it tonight, V. What's up, bro? I work. I'm like a rapper, bro. I'm up 2, 3 in the morning. I work. We could go tonight, V. What's up? You tell me. I'm turbo edging to this right now. What? You what? Say less, all right. Let me know it's 11 o'clock. I probably rock out for I don't know how long it's gonna take me to read this. Rashad Adams, appreciate the love. Talk, nigga, let's go. Let's get to it. Appreciate the love, man. Shout out to the super chat. I always appreciate the love. That's how I be trying to build our empires, bro. Hey, yo, hey, my friend. Bro, I don't do no shout outs, bro. I don't even like when people come over here talking like that. Oh, we at 73. We blowing up. I'm rocking with you. This here movie. Say it ain't a movie though. Your page is the best to do it. Salute. I appreciate that, bro. You are doing your research. Everyone else still reading from the 32 page. Brother, 32 page, I don't put that on the shelf. I'm done with that. 32 page, John, that's old news. We got to go into these other documents. We're going to keep talking about the same thing. We ain't going to be getting to the point. We don't do favors, G. 100 views. Okay. All right, 100 views. Read the work. Yeah, we just cool until we get to a meatball then. Stop smiling, bro. I don't know what you want, bro. Why y'all talking about? What are y'all talking about? Just come across for the first time. We talking about Agent Kieth Cromer's testimony and what did he have to say about this whole debacle with the IMF crew, the Informant Mafia family. Don Julio. Shout out to my man Craig. Give me that Don Julio. Shout out to DC Craig. Give me that Don Julio. She said she got that Don Julio. You look like Obama. You can't be serious. That's not even a troll. Is this a new live? Yeah. We had some technical difficulty. I think the IMF people reported us. I'm here to spread the gospel. That ain't what we on right now, bro. You gonna have to get up out of here with that. Get him out of here right now before we get to talking all that stuff he be talking. You gotta go, bro. We ain't on that right now. We ain't on that right now neither. Elijah got to go. I don't care if you're a little kid, you got to go too. You don't belong over here. This grown folk stuff. If you don't understand what a Rule 35 or 5K1 is, y'all need to go somewhere else. This is the advanced class. This is the 11 p.m. session. Day 2 Chroma testimony. What, you want me to go to day 2? We ain't read day 1. Why you want me to go to day 2? Hold on, I got to read some of day 1. The truth, some that you saved. I'm from the. Nah, we got to read some of day 1, bruh. You read day 1, so you bored. I ain't read day 1 yet. This is my first time seeing day 1. I just got this from the Brick Squad. Somebody got BMF tattoo. A lot of people got BMF. As soon as they mentioned Meech, they cut Chroma testimony and told him to come back October. All right, let's get to that. We ain't at 100 yet. We gonna read that until they come, and then when they cut Chroma testimony, I'm gonna jump to day 2. Okay. He said, I got BMF on me. So you a BMFer? You gotta change that B to an I now, though. We at 80, man. I guess they ain't coming back for it. What y'all want me to do? Y'all want me hold on for the 100? We could definitely hold on for the 100. Be right back. Let me get some more water. Oh man, I guess as I left, we going down. We gonna have to get rolling then. All right. I think we gonna have to get rolling, man. We've been on here for 10 minutes. All right, here you go. He say, all right, question. Could you state your name for the record? Kieth Cromer. Are you appearing in court via telephone today? Yeah. Boom. Appreciate the love, bruh. All right, appreciate the love. Okay. Are you appearing in court today via telephone pursuant to a subpoena that was issued by the United States District Court in the Eastern District of Missouri? Yes, sir. In August of 2012, did you deliberately provide false material information to DEA agents in St. Louis, knowing it would be included in the affidavit for a Title III wiretap of Mr. Dion Cuffy Gatlin's telephone? Mr. Thomas says, can we have just a moment? All right, boom. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Blase, blase. I understand, Your Honor. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Mr. Thomas, I need Mr. Chroma to answer the question. All right, I may have just a moment. All right, come on, they BSing right here. He's unable to answer the question. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I think we're ready. Witness. No, ma'am. All right, we skipped through a bunch of that. He asked Agent Cromer, was that information that Tammy said was false? Was it false? He said, no, ma'am. Based on the advice of counsel, I am invoking my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer that question. He invoked his Fifth Amendment right. What you think about that? All right. Next question. On August 12th, did you call CS1, which is Tammy, to deliberately provide false material information to DEA agents in St. Louis, knowing that information would be included in the affidavit for a Title III wiretap of Mr. Dion Cuffy's phone? It says inaudible conversation on telephone. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding your answer. Mr. Herman, Your Honor, it sounds to me, they cut him off. The answer is no. There is no. He says no again. Did you tell Tammy to tell Demetrius Flannery that she should tell DEA agents that Demetrius Flannery was going to receive a cut of the proceeds of drug dealings between Dion Gatlin and Demetrius Flannery? The court says, hold on, question. And Fidel Suarez, they add. The court says, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas says, yes, Your Honor. The court says, I cannot have you interfering with the testimony of the witness. I understand that there are matters that your client may need to confer with you on with respect to any potential criminal exposure he might have, but I need to have him answer the questions without interference from counsel. So the court is checking him. All right, Mr. Thomas says, I understand, Your Honor, and for the record, I am advising my counsel my client to invoke, and that's the only confirm we're doing. I'm sorry, I'll try to proceed in accordance with that. The court says, we have lawyers who want to make a record. Hold on, go ahead, Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman gets back to it. I'm going to object to continuing this hearing because it was presented to us that this witness was going to take the Fifth Amendment, and that's the only reason we agreed to present his testimony. Yeah, that's what it said. Testimony by telephone. But if we're going to engage in an extended examination of this witness and he's going to deny the questions, he's going to subsequently answer the question, I want him in the courtroom here. Mr. Welly say, I agree, Your Honor. Mr. Hogan say, okay, absolutely. I think he's waived his Fifth Amendment rights by asserting the answer. Your Honor, I'm sorry, we're not able to hear over the phone. Court, if you would go back to the microphone, Mr. Hogan says, all right, we agree, Your Honor. By answering the question, I think he's waived his Fifth Amendment rights And they are entitled to have him here, be here in the court to answer questions with respect to the inquiry here. The court, I agree, Mr. Thomas. What the lawyer said in this case, you did hear it was that Mr. Cromer, Agent Cromer, was permitted by this court to appear by telephone. And that was by agreement. With that understanding that he was going to be invoking his Fifth Amendment right, he clearly just waived that right with respect to the question that was put to him by Mr. Welby. The very second question. In light of that, I'm ordering that Agent Cromer appear in court in person, so that he can be questioned properly by all the lawyers. His testimony is very central to this case. He is under subpoena right. Yes, Your Honor. And so we must appear here. How soon can you get here, Agent Cromer? This hearing is going until tomorrow, but we'll extend it to Friday if need be. So his lawyer, Mr. Thomas, says, Your Honor, he said he can be there by Friday. The court, all right, well, I think he needs to plan to be here by Friday. I didn't plan to go into Friday. How does that work for all of the lawyers involved? I'll make it work, Your Honor, such and such and such and such, all right? Mr. Honor, I'll be there, the court, all that, all right? Agent Cromer on Friday. It's time to thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, see you on Friday. All right, now we're going to go to day 2. We're going to go to day 2. Cromer, second day, shout out to Brick Squad. We're going to go to day 2. Gangsters ain't gangsters no more. I ain't reading the comments right now, y'all. I apologize. All right, let's click it. Let's click it. All right, let's get it. Transcripts, we're going to skip straight to it, but we ain't going through all that no more. Hold on, y'all. Let me get straight to it. I don't want to read all that other fluff. Yeah, I need a minute to confer. I don't need all that confirmed. Yes and yes and yes and yes, depending on what we're going to tell you, okay? So then let's talk about Cromer. All right, that's what the judge said. Let's talk about Cromer. Let's talk about Cromer. So, and in terms of his presentation of testimony, what we're going to do with the testimony in the courtroom, I think that my plan is to have him testify just like the other DEA agents have testified in this case in open court. Obviously, Agent Cromer has information that is material to this case, material to this hearing. He is a material witness as far as I'm concerned with respect to whether or not the search warrant affidavit contains false statements, either because he made them directly to the DEA St. Louis agents or he instructed the confidential source to do so, which was Tammy. So unless the government can show me otherwise, I'm aware of no reason why questions about that, about information he provided relative to the investigation, should be done other than in open court. Mr. Riley, Judge, we agree with that. I think at this point, our overriding concern is if we get into areas that affect not victim, but witness safety. The court says you're right. So, Mr. Riley, specifically depending on where the examination goes, and as I know the court knows, perhaps the scope of the examination and cross-examination hasn't been determined. Depending on where it goes, there's a very likely conceivable scenario where if we get into certain conversations about specific targets that the CS has given information on, it could jeopardize the CS's safety. And that's where we may ask for a closure if we get into an area we think affects confidential source safety. We y'all with me? All right, boom. You said hold it. They stop making the gangster gun. Page 42 starts, gang. Page 42. What you want me to skip to 42? Oh, yeah. Look at this. It's redacted, y'all. Some of it's taken out. So they say we got to go to 42. All right, I get it. Hold on, let's see. Hold on, let's see. All right, so here's the rest of what I was thinking in terms of the procedure. You let me know if you object to this. I think what I'm going to do is propose the consistent with what you're saying. I believe defendants can and should be permitted to question Agent Cromer about the OIG and OPR investigations. All right, so I'm gonna try to skip to what he said, so I don't take it, but I still ordered this. I don't think so. Dog Aguilar may have been a subject, what I've been told. I'm gonna skip to 42 like you said. I don't see nothing, I don't see Cromer. Well, it remains an interest to be protected. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Trying to get caught up. What we on? We on the testimony of Kieth Cromer about that was approximately 2,370 pages of investigation. That's what I was telling y'all I read. Didn't I say that? CS2. I'm gonna go to 42. Like you said, go to 42. I'm gonna listen to the Burke Squad. Cause this is a long ass document. Anyway, a bunch of more redacted stuff. Man, this joint redacted heavy. Chroma gets in the stand. All right, bet. Let's go. I'm gonna listen to y'all, bro. I'm gonna listen. Boom, page 42. I'm right here. 41, 42. All right. And if you're going to, you can sit right there. Is that okay, Mr. Thomas? That's fine. That's fine. The court. I don't think there's any other place. Kieth Cromer, having been duly sworn, was examined and testified as follows. Direct examination. And we almost at 100. Direct examination. Question. Could you please state your name? Answer. My name is Kieth Cromer. Last name Cormer. And what's your business or occupation? What's your business or occupation? I said. I am a group supervisor with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. Next question. Oh, shout out to Baby. I see Baby just sent a message. And is that your current occupation? Answer. That's my current occupation. Right now, I am. Could you speak into the microphone? It's very hard to hear you. All right. Is this better? Okay, the court. Yes. You're a little bit taller. You have to speak directly into the microphone. Otherwise, it won't pick you up. It's a little limited. Witness says, okay. The court, thank you. I'm sorry. You were about to explain your status with the DEA. Answer. That I am right now on suspension. On Wednesday, we began your testimony, and I asked you a question about an individual we referred to as confidential source number one. If I use that terminology, confidential source number one or CS number one, do you know the person to whom I'm referring? We all know that's Tammy. Mr. Webley. Answer is, based on advice of my counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right. All right. Mr. Webley, Your Honor, I believe the defendant has waived his right to questions about Tammy, which they say in CS1. And I would ask the court to instruct the defendant to answer the question. The courts, which is the judge. I do agree with that, Agent Cromer, based on your testimony on Wednesday, and certainly with respect to this question, I certainly think you can and should answer the question, the witness. Yes, ma'am. Can you repeat the question? The attorney says, can we identify CS at sidebar? The court says yes. Could we do that? Yes. With the witness, I want the record to refer that we're talking about the same individual. We're talking about Tammy, y'all. I think that's fair. I would ask that all counsel approach, including Mr. Thomas and Agent Cromer, you're going to have to talk. You're going to have to walk around to my sidebar. I don't have a microphone over here for you. The witness says, I'm fine with that. I'm fine right here. The court, no. I need you over here to get your testimony. So get your behind up. The bench confers. The bench conference of Kieth Cromer is sealed and found in a separate volume marked as Excerpt A, Mr. Welby. Now, question. Do you know an individual known by the term CS number one? Cromer says yes. How did you meet her? they say her, through doing a quarterly meeting, a matter after I became the supervisor of Task Force Group 2. And when did you meet her? Sometime in 2010. Is that when you became the group supervisor of that group? Yes, sir. All right. So you met her in 2010. Can you describe your relationship with CS2, which is Tammy? At the time you first met her, CS1. Whoa. All right. So you met her in 2010. Can you describe your relationship with CS2 at the time you first met with her? And CS1 at the time you first met with her? I don't understand your question, which I didn't either. That's why I read it twice. Can you describe your relationship with CS1? All right, now it's clear. Based on advice from my counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right, the court. I'm sorry, Agent Cromer. I didn't hear you. I don't understand your question. When, if you're asking what the relationship was, it's just we were working and she was getting debriefed. That's why I be telling y'all about debrief. She was getting debriefed. Okay, and that's the first time you met her? You only met her in the context of this one debriefing? Yes. Did at some point that relationship develop into something more than just meeting one time? Yes, sir. Did you meet her on more than one occasion? Chroma says, yes, sir. Can you describe to the court the development of your relationship from that first meeting in 2010 up to the status of your relationship on August the 28th of 2012? Chroma's answer is, from when I first met with CS1 up until it was just worked through. She was working with an agent who worked for me at the time. And then after that, I reassigned her in July of 2011 to another agent because the first original agent retired. We know what's up with that. From there, in 2011, in July of before August, I had a discussion with him in reference to changing the way that they were being utilized as working with the government. I made the major decision to be more protective of a certain type of investigation that we were working and put a more focus on mid to upper level drug trafficking organizations that were operating in the Atlanta field division. And based upon that, they agreed to continue working with the government instead of being deactivated. And part of the agreement to do that is that if it would develop into a long-term investigation, part of what we would do, well, pay them $2,500 a month stipend for cooperating with the government on a monthly basis. And that would include identifying individuals, phone calls, phone numbers, things of that nature that would assist the government in doing their work. Okay, let me ask you a few questions about the answer you just gave. You described that CS1 was previously being controlled by an agent who formerly worked for you, but then retired? Yes, sir, in July of 2011. Yes, sir. And who was that? Jack Harvey. I didn't know Jack Harvey worked for Chroma. Jack Harvey. Okay. And you said that upon his retirement, CS1, which is Tammy, was reassigned to a different agent. Yes, sir. Who was that? Anthony Smith. Did Anthony Smith, he worked for your group? Chroma says, yes, sir. He was a task force officer assigned to my group. Did he remain her controlling agent throughout the time that you were actively employed with the DEA? The answer from Chroma is no. He had a stroke and he wound up taking time off. He was gone for a considerable amount of time. When was that? 2013 until he went back to his department in about 2013, beginning of 14. Next question. At some point in time, did you reassign the controlling agent for Tammy to someone other than Anthony Smith? Chroma says yes. And who was that individual? Well, they were it was task force officers. David Aguilar was reassigned to CS1. You said co. What do you mean by co? When I assigned Agent Smith, also, he was working, he and Task Force Officer Aguilar were working together. So they, on paper, Tony, Anthony Smith, was the controlling both, but both of them worked with her. Next question. You said in August of 2011, you changed the manner in which you were utilizing CS1. So he changed the manner in which I was using Tammy in 2011. In July, sometime in July, my group primarily did wire intercepts with focus on Mexican-based drug trafficking organizations. And we didn't work street or low-level drug trafficking organizations. And the information that she had been, that CS1 had been supplying, the agents in the group prior to me getting there and continued when I first got there were focused on a different level of traffickers. And so I approached them. Instead, I said, listen, we work different now. We want to focus on mid and upper level drug traffickers and trafficking organizations. We're primarily looking for people who are dealing directly with a source of supply in source countries. Mr. Welby, give me 1 second, Your Honor. Question. This meeting you described with CS1, did that take place at the Stonecrest Mall? Chroma says no. It was just out and about Metro Atlanta somewhere. Okay, sorry. It was just out and about in the Metro Atlanta area somewhere. You don't remember where it happened? No. And when you met her, you told her you were going to use her in a more protective role. Chroma says yes. At that point in time, did she give you any information about Mexican drug trafficking organizations? Chroma says, at that time, CS1 was already providing information relative to some local traffickers operating in the Metro Atlanta area already. And when I initially told her, CS1 that is, right after that in August, I had to take a leave of absence from work for maybe 6 weeks because my son was terminally ill and he passed away. I'm sorry. So I took off. I didn't come back until October. Sometime in October of 2011. So when you came back in October 2011, do you remember meeting with her then at the Stonecrest Mall? Not initially when I first came back, no sir. Do you remember meeting with Tammy, CS1 at Stonecrest Mall? Yes, myself and Tony, Anthony Smith, met with CS1 at Stonecrest Mall. And would that have been in October of 2011 or before? It would have been after because I remember the dates. It was my anniversary date. I had to look for an anniversary gift. And so it was convenient for us to meet because that's where we met at. It was the mall on that occasion. I'm not really sure what you're talking before then, but the meeting at Stonecrest Mall, I know it was January 13th of 2012 that we met at Stonecrest Mall. Question. And is that the meeting where you told her you would pay her $2,500 each month for her work? Chroma says, no, sir. That happened before. That happened in 2011. Next question. So beginning in 2011, you told her that you were going to pay her $2,500 a month. No, sir. Not at the beginning of 2011. In July, after July of 2011, after Agent Harvey retired, that's when I had to make a determination and speak with the agent either to deactivate them or if they were going to continue. I had a different philosophy as far as how I wanted all the people who were working and cooperating with us to work. That is what changed. Next question. And at the change, you told her that you would pay her $2,500 a month to work with your group, Group 2. Chroma says, to provide information related to the ongoing investigation. Yes, sir. Next question. Did she provide any information about large-scale Mexican drug trafficking organizations in July of 2011? No. At the time in July and August, she was already providing information relative to individuals who were trafficking drugs in the metro Atlanta area, in addition to other information that we had to farm out to other agencies as well. He used the word farm. Next question, do you tell her that you didn't want to mess with any low-level African American drug dealers, that you only dealt with Mexicans? Chroma says, again, like I told you, I said we worked mid to upper level drug trafficking organizations with direct connects to source countries. It didn't matter what nationality they are, just as long as they had the direct connection. In the southeastern part of the United States, Mexican-based drug trafficking organizations dominate the distribution of drugs in that part of the country. Next question. Did you tell her that she would be safe working in this capacity because you only targeted Mexican drug dealers and that they would be deported as soon as the case was over and they wouldn't pose a threat to her? No, sir, he says. Next question. That would be a lie? That's not an accurate statement, no. And when you talked about the $2,500 a month, did you ever describe it as payroll? The monthly stipend, yes, sir. When you talked to her, you called it payroll? She was on payroll? Chroma says, I never used the word payroll. Monthly stipend is what I use. Next question. And did you document that agreement in whatever forms are necessary with the DEA? Chroma says, at the time they were being paid, yes, they were documented. Excuse me. Did you document the agreement to pay CS1 on a monthly basis, $2,500 a month with the DEA? The months when the payments began, there was documents, paperwork, documentation, documenting all that. Next question. But as a general agreement between you and CS1, did you document the understanding that the DEA would pay her $2,500 every month? Answer. There was already an agreement the CS1 signed that said they would provide, laid out the parameters as far as working with the government. Now, I don't recall if the agents wrote a DEA 6 stating specifically in there. I doubt it, but that was the understanding. And I want you to understand, we were already doing this with other people working for the government already in the same way. Next question. So you have multiple confidential informants that were being put on what you describe as monthly stipends. Yes, sir. By the DEA, yes, sir. And that monthly stipend agreement was not contained in their confidential, I don't know the name of it. There's an agreement, the confidential source signs when they get signed up, right? I just learned something. So the answer is yes. Man, I ain't reading none of the comments, y'all. Hold on, bro. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. And you're saying that the document did not reflect the monthly stipend to which you had agreed. The paperwork is documented every month. The paperwork to pay them is documented at that time each month when they are paid. So you had to come up each month with a reason to pay them the monthly stipend. Now, didn't I say this, y'all? Answer. Once you were on an active investigation, either by us, my group, or assisting, and there was an investigation that had some assistance of substantial assistance to it, then we will regularly pay the money. I spoke to and briefed my supervisor about that. He was in agreement with it, and we did it. And we submitted the paperwork every month. But you don't believe anyone documented that? That's the question. The specific terms of that agreement, you would doubt that anyone put that in any kind of DEA report? Answer. We got approval every month. I signed off on it. The agents would write, fill out the paperwork. I would sign it. I would submit it for my supervisor's approval. He put the approval on it. They withdrew the money from the Empress people and are paid. All the paper was signed. I reviewed the paperwork and I signed it and submitted it back in. That happened every month. Am I correct? This is the next question to Chroma. Am I correct? The DEA policy requires that payments that are made in any instance to be commensurate with the work that is performed by the confidential source for that particular payment? Chroma says, no, sir. That's not my understanding. And before I even did this, I conferred with other agents who had previously done this before. Next question. I'm going to show you what's previously marked as defendants, Exhibit L. It's the DEA manual showing you defendants 12. You received a DEA manual when you worked at the DEA, a fractured one, yes. Yes, sir. Did the fractured piece you have instructions on how informants are to be paid? Answer. Can you tell me what you're referring to? The question. The section that says general policies domestic, I highlighted there on the TV screen under section B, where it says the amount of the payment must be commensurate with the value of the service and or the information provided. Chroma says yes. And 6612.41 section B, so he know. So you can't just pay somebody a stipend of $2,500 a month. Chroma says yes, you can. How would that be commensurate with the work that they provide if you don't even know what they are going to provide? Chroma says, do you see in section B, subsection 2, the amount of the actual or potential seizure, the target individual, organization, or operation, the significance of the contribution made by the informant, the reason inherently working and providing and cooperating with the government inherently takes a risk? You assess each person, what the potential they can do, and it's given for a multitude of reasons. Number one, it gives them a financial incentive to provide real-time accurate information. Number two, it gives them a sense of that I don't have to be pressured to do something stupid because I needed money. And three, if we as an agency need something done, a money pickup, a meeting with something, make phone calls, identify a location for us that they had no knowledge of, then they would do it because that's what they are given a stipend for. So am I correct that you told CS1 that her job would be to either go pick up money and go pick up drugs, things like that? That would be the kind of thing she would be doing, right? Agent Chroma says, pick it up, money pickups, make phone calls, identify people who they believe are involved in the distribution of drugs or the collection of drug proceeds. And no matter what she did, she was getting $2,500 a month. Chroma says, no, sir. So if she didn't ever go pick up money or ever go pick up drugs, she still get $2,500 or no? Chroma says no. Again, it goes to, and I might as well go ahead with this investigation right here. Okay, when she in July of 2011, CS1 was providing information relative to individuals who are associated with, I don't recognize the gentleman here, but I recognize the name, with a guy named Cuff, okay? Don't know who he is, don't know anything. I never even heard of him myself. That's what Chroma said. And none of the guys in my group have ever heard of this person. Man, she provided the information relative that she received from other individuals who were in the know about drug trafficking, particularly a gentleman who was a Mexican national. They say he's really not a Mexican national, but we ain't gonna get into that right now. Who had made an agreement with Cuff through a third person to begin to work together to distribute drugs between California. She identified this Cuff person being here in St. Louis, in the St. Louis, in the St. Louis area. And when the distribution of drugs occurred, Then they would pay her a portion of the drug proceeds as a finder's fee for the person who wound up putting those two individuals together. Now, that moving forward has the potential, as it says, to do what we're looking for, okay? Initially, things were brought to us by CS1. Some nationals from, I don't know if they are from Pakistan or somewhere in the Middle East, who they believe were laundering money. And so my group didn't specialize in and really had no knowledge of laundering money. So I spoke with the supervisor of the group who specialized in that, and I had them speak to them about what they believed was a money laundering aspect that group was going on. From that, based upon those conversations, it was recommended that CS1 speak to the FBI, JTTF. So we arranged for that to happen right there. There were other individuals based upon CS1 having access to certain databases, financial databases, that CS1 was identifying individuals from the database for agents to take a look at. And Tammy, CS1, wasn't providing and giving that information to me. She was giving that information to Task Force Officer Tony Smith and Special Agent Fred Swoop. Question: did you ever tell Task Force Officer Smith, Mr. Swoop, I'm sorry, Special Agent Swoop or Task Force Officer Aguilar, to falsify documents? Cromer says no. To justify payments for her? Cromer says no, sir. Are you aware that she received? When did she tell you about this cuff fellow that you just mentioned? Okay. Again, it was after I returned back to work. It was after October of 2011. Next question. But you don't remember exactly when? No, sir, I don't remember the exact date. However, I did, well, she told the agents about them first. Then I spoke to them. I asked them a few pointed questions. I asked them, have you run the numbers for these individuals to see what come up? They said no, so they didn't have the numbers. They misplaced it, so we called CS1. We got the number for this guy called Fidel. Man, they misplaced the number. So Chroma says, we called Tammy. We got the number for this guy, Fidel. That's all she knew him as, Fidel. And that's all she knew the other person as far as Cuff. As for the number. And I ran them in DEA database systems. Question: when did you do that? I don't have the exact date, but again, if you, the agency, could tell you, because my account ran that number in the system, and based upon that, running Fidel and Cuff's number in the system, there was a hit that came up on an investigation that was happening in Los Angeles. An investigation that was identified in Los Angeles, California, with the particular number. Which number? Fidel's number, who was later identified as Fidel Suarez, if I'm not mistaken. From there, I wound up calling someone I knew. This is Chroma talking. A friend of mine who worked for DEA in Los Angeles. I provided him with the telephone number and the case number that went along with it. And I said, hey, you know, can you find this out? What's going on with this? And I spoke to, he eventually called me back, He provided me the name of the case agent who was handling that number for Fidel. And from there, I explained to him how I received the information, how CS1 provided the information to us. And he identified Fidel fully as Fidel Suarez. He had been in prison, but he was released. And before he went to prison, he had that number. Suarez had the same number before he went in and when he came out, according to this dude. So anyway, and when he was released from prison, he was utilizing that number that CS1 provided to us. Get the hell, bruh. Bruh, low-level D-boys don't keep the same phone for years and years and years. What's up with this? Next question. And you would have documented all this in a DEA-6? I wouldn't have documented it. The agents would have documented it. But I documented who is the question. Chroma continues. You'd have to look, I don't know which one documented the report, but I documented it by placing that number into the DA database that said telephone number for Fidel, who CS1 knew as a distributor. But I learned more information in talking to the agent out of Los Angeles. What his role really was the transportation coordinator. Brick Squad. Real question is, she wasn't a criminal. How was she aware of third-party cooperation without third-party interference? So when you got this number for Fidel, you were able to plug it into the DA database and gather information about his full name. After no, I had to speak to an agent first. When you spoke to the agent, all right, Chroma says, I spoke to the agent, yes. Did you speak to the agent in Los Angeles? Yes, sir. And you were provided his full name? Yes, sir. His pedigree information? Well, I didn't need any of this pedigree information because at that time, once the agent there in Los Angeles he was already familiar with it. He didn't know that Fidel was back out. So until Tammy was aware of this, and Chroma became aware of it, and he called Los Angeles, the DEA in Los Angeles, the agent that was on him before he went to prison, didn't even know he was out of prison. According to Cromer. Only according to Cromer, though. So we're not going to recreate the wheel and start up an investigation for somebody who is already familiar with him. He is in that area of responsibility. He's in the California area. There are no reasons for us. There's no reason for us. And there was no indication he had ever been to the Atlanta area, so they handled it out there. He said he would do a workup on the phone number. And the only thing I asked him, I said, if anything comes back here to the Atlanta field division, just give us a call so we can work on it. And we left it at that. And that was the last time I spoke to that agent. Question. But he told you all this stuff about him being in prison and what phone number he had used. His trucking company, the agent in Los Angeles, told you all this stuff? No. No. CS1 told me that he was in prison. CS1 told you he was in prison? He's saying Tammy told him he was in prison. Yes, we didn't know. Okay, my fault. I was reading something. My bad. CS1 told you he was in prison? Yes. We didn't know anything about. I never heard of him before. Tammy told us about Fidel. Told us about a guy named Cuff and the agreement they had to start distributing drugs that was going to be supplied by the people who Fidel worked for. So when she gave you the information on Fidel, his phone number, you ran it through the system and tracked down all this information about him, including the agent who had actually worked on his original case? Yes, sir. When she gave you the information on Cuff, did you do the same thing? Answer. We didn't have anything to go on him for Cuff. You had his phone number. Whatever number at the time that was provided, there was no information for Cuff. So it was the only thing we knew about him. He was from St. Louis and a nickname Cuff. And I wasn't going to have them go try to search down something because the more viable the person out of those two was, as far as how I looked at it, was Fidel. Because he was dealing directly with a source of supply in a source country. He did say that. He did say that. He did say that. I told y'all they was on Suarez. All right. So Cuff wasn't that important to you. Not to me, no, sir. And you didn't check Nodis. to check the phone number or the moniker Cuff to see if it came up with anybody in St. Louis. I didn't check anything. I didn't do that. I don't do that type of stuff, sir. Did you tell me that when you had the number for Fidel and you had the number for Cuff, you checked it? You checked in the DEA. You checked in the DEA system to see if there was cause between the two. Did I misunderstand you? Chroma says no. You misunderstood what I said. Question: what did you do when you had those two numbers? Just exactly what you said here, or did you do something more? Chroma says, I entered them into the system. Fidel's number hit in the system into an investigation. That's when I made the phone call to Los Angeles. And that's how we identified him. And also at the same time, CS1, which is Tammy, was able to look up and find Fidel based on BOP records. That's exactly what I did. Let me get some more water. I looked him up in BOP.gov and I found him. I can show it to you. Tammy did the exact same thing. Looked him up in the BOP records. So when he beat the case for the joint he had in Michigan, he was out on bond awaiting sentencing on something else. He must have went in for that joint real quick and then got back out. I'm about to check it. Hold on. Let me get this water. Don't go nowhere. Brick Squad. All right. Boom, we back on Suarez. All right, so she found him in the BOP records. That's how the feds operate. Suarez was still fighting in Cali state case. Well, locked up in Michigan as well. Yeah, he was not. He was awaiting sentencing according to the records. But let's get back to it. Fidel Suarez, yes. Did you enter Cuff's number into the system when you got that information? Whatever number she provided, yes. Who provided it? Tammy. So you didn't basically, so you did basically the same thing. And you said the agency you're talking about, the DEA, would have a record that you entered Fidel's number into the system and a record that you entered Cuff's number into the system. Yes, sir. Okay. I want to go back a little bit. We were talking about your relationship with CS1 before we got into the payment aspect. You mentioned sadly that your son passed away from leukemia. Is that right? Yes. And that was a tragic event for you. Am I correct? Yes. And I'm sorry to bring this up, but did your relationship with CS1 change after the passing of your son? Yes, sir. Did she send flowers to the funeral home? I didn't know about that until later. I didn't know that. My wife sent a thank you card to everyone who sent gifts or cards. And when I looked at the list of people she sent things to, yes, she was on that list. I don't know what she sent at all. I just know she was on the list when my wife sent something that said thank you and a thank you note. But you were moved by that. I was moved by that. I was moved by that. The fact that she had shown some sympathy at the time of your loss, sir, I didn't know she sent anything. I was devastated as a human being just for the loss, period, by itself, you know? I understand. So that's what that was. Did she send you a personal note of condolence? No, not that I know of, not that I can recall. Did you have conversations with her about the loss of your son and the emotions you were going through? Yes, sir. And did you describe, hold on 1 second, and did you describe Did you describe with her the tough time that you were going through, that my family and I were going through? Yes, sir. And did she share with you that she had recently gone through a similar tragedy in her own life with her husband's passing? Yes, eventually she did. And the two of you became closer after that. Is that true? We had interaction. Yes, sir. You began to discuss personal matters with the confidential source. Yes, sir. You would see her outside of work and business. Yes. Movies, dinner, things like that. No movies, just dinner. It's in context of let me explain this to you, okay? Please. As far as the dinner is concerned, okay, one thing, and I'm sure you have to know this now. Divine intervention goes here. When my son passed away, before my son passed away, I didn't discuss anything. The only thing anybody knew except the people who were close to me and my group knew that just my son was sick, not that he was terminally ill and dying. I never discussed that with her, not anyone. And it goes back to the flowers, what you're saying and everything. One thing that happened that I didn't know, and it wasn't until months later after my son passed away, that she knew my youngest brother. He doesn't know anything about her. But my brother helped put the program together for my son's service. And my son, my brother, only knows her because he was dating the young lady next door. He has nothing to do with any criminal activity or anything. He's just dating the girl next door, the neighbor's daughter. And he was getting the PowerPoint collage together for the services. The PowerPoint collage together for his service. We sent him the photos we wanted for the service, and he utilized CS1's computer to put the PowerPoint presentation together. And CS1 at that point saw me and my children on those photos and never mentioned it to me at all for months after that. So any condolence cards or anything, I didn't know about any of those things until I looked down on the list. And yes, I did speak to them. They approached me about telling if I wanted to speak to them or talk to the agents first, and said that if I ever wanted to know how they got through their tragedy or their loss, to speak to them. And I didn't want to talk to anyone. It was very difficult for me. And I didn't want to talk to anyone. But my son's birthday was a couple of weeks after he passed, and it was tough for me. And one day we just started talking, and that was it. Question: am I correct that you were grateful for her for allowing your brother to use the computer to prepare the PowerPoint for your son's service? Are you saying that? I didn't even know, period. My son passed away September 23rd, 2011. I didn't even know my brother even knew her until December of 2011. So how can I be appreciative of anything that I don't know? Next question. Well, I'm just asking the question here. Okay, so you knew about the fact that she had sent flowers to the service, and then you later learned that she had also helped your brother write. She had also helped your brother with the PowerPoint. All right. Answer: she didn't help my brother with the PowerPoint at all. He just utilized the computer. That's it. Flowers, I didn't know she sent the flowers. The only thing I knew was that my wife sent a thank you note to everyone who sent a token of, I don't even know the right word right now to use, or sympathy, either a card or flower or something. So anybody who left electronically or physically at the funeral, anyone who left electronically or physically at the funeral home, we wound up getting a list of everyone, and we sent thank you notes to everyone. Next question. Did I understand correctly that when you suffered this loss, you had difficulty finding someone else you could talk to about your feelings and how you were going through this, and you were able to do that with CS1? Can you break that question up into two things? You're asking two separate things, sir. Question: yes. Let's take the first one. Okay. You testified earlier that when you were going through this tough time in your life, you found it difficult to talk to anyone else at work or anyone else that you knew about how you felt. No. Initially, when my son passed away, I spoke with the people in the Employee Assistance Program. Me, my wife, and my other 2 remaining children spoke with the EAP program. And for whatever reason, that person in the EAP program told the front office and my boss that we were going to see them. I don't know why. And so I decided not to go. You know, I ended that. And after a little while longer in my grief and stuff, and like I described to you, one day I wound up speaking to her, which is Tammy. Question, and your relationship grew closer after you began to speaking to her about your feelings. We had, yes, sir. It became it became a more personal relationship. Yes, sir. And you would go out to dinner together, go get drinks, things like that. Okay, going out to dinner. Here was the second part. Let's go over this because my brother was my, at the end of the day, no movies, but we would be out at the same location, and I have to qualify this. I have to qualify this and tell you this. My brother, I couldn't really function driving or anything, so my brother drove me around. He took me where I wanted to go, or he would meet me, and we would have, because my younger brother is 20 years younger than I am, and I just wanted somebody to be there with me, and he would sit there and talk, and that's what we would do. That's what happened. Now, one day, and I have to, so I can describe it so you can understand. In December of 2011, my brother and I were eating at a restaurant not far from my partner's house. And he was on the phone speaking with someone, and he told them that I'm eating with my brother and my nephew. And about 30 minutes after that telephone call, she shows up there. Excuse me. And she, you mean CS1? Excuse me, sorry. CS1 shows up there. I'm sorry. So that's how I knew right then that they knew. Now, going back to another time, again, I would be out with my brother, and I could be finished. We were running an errand, and we were doing something. I would say, hey, meet me somewhere. He would meet. But at the same time, my brother was in communication with CS1 saying, I'm going to meet my brother at XYZ at a restaurant. He's there. He just told me to come there. You know, I'm paying for his meal for coming. I guess I'm paying for the company. And she would come. And you would pay for her meal as well? Yeah, I'm stuck. I got both of them there. I was paying for his, and that would happen, yes, sir. Vicious trick, bro. And pay for the meal. You said there were no movies that you ever were together. In fact, did you see a movie, The Three Stooges, and she also happened to be there at the same time? It's crazy, bro. Answer. I'll tell you this. At the movies by myself. I'm at the movies by myself. And that was in April of 2012. And I'm a growing up, I loved the Three Stooges. The movie came out. I'm sitting in the movies. I called my brother. I said, hey, I'm at the movies. I said, I paid for his ticket. Just come in. About 30, he arrives. He sits behind me. And behind him walks CS1 and 2 of her family members. About that time, I saw the movie enough that I didn't like it. And I told him, hey, call me later. And I get up and I leave. Question. So the reason you left is because you didn't like the movie? It wasn't because CS1 showed up. Answer. Well, we had a conversation about that as far as not if I asked you to come somewhere to meet me. I don't want to have to pay. I don't want to have to deal with that. I'm asking you to come, not anyone else. Says, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I didn't understand. I'm speaking to him. I said, if I ask you to come somewhere, I'm asking you. Anybody else come, that's money out my pocket. And I don't want to do that. So that was, and I had the conversation with CS1 as well. Question. So Before August 2012, your relationship had developed beyond merely work with confidential source number one. Yes? It had become personal? Yes. Did it become intimate or romantic? No, sir. At some point prior to August 28th, 2012? No, sir. Did it become sexual prior to August 28th, 2012? No, sir. Did it ever become sexual? No. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't want to, but this, my son passed away September 23rd of 2011. I haven't since November of 2011 had an intimate sexual relationship since then to date because dealing with emotional, personal issues that I'm still trying to work through. Did you ever take any trips together with confidential source number one that were not directly related to the business of the Drug Enforcement Administration? Yes, sir. How many? There were two. Where did you go? The first one, my college roommate and I, my brother, had planned a trip to go to Biloxi. And the first of 2012, as my roommate, my college roommate and I, we take a trip together every year or every other year. And I asked my brother to go as far as to show my appreciation for all that he has done for me since my son passing. And so we made our travel arrangements and everything. Unfortunately, something happened with my brother. He couldn't go. But beforehand, and let me back that up, before he had told CS1 where we were going and that I was going, we were going to fly. CS1 tried to convince him to that they wanted to go and to have my brother drive with them. And he told me about it, and I said no. My brother couldn't go for other reasons. My roommate and I had already sent my brother the itinerary because I paid for the plane tickets for my college roommate and myself. I paid for the plane tickets. I made the travel arrangement for both of us. And the day we were leaving, we get to the airport. CS1 is at the airport as well. Bruh, she is stalking, according to him. Just happened to be there? No, they had gotten an itinerary and they went. And I said, and I'll be perfectly candid here. The conversation talks I had and my college roommate, he just said, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Because he doesn't know anything about what their status or anything is. So he don't know the informants. He got the informants hanging out with him, but he a DA agent anyway. So he said, don't even worry about it. So we had two rooms at the place where we went. Me and him bunked up in a room, and she had her room by herself. A room that you paid for? Yes. On a personal trip to Biloxi, Mississippi? Yes. And you said your buddy didn't know that there would be anything improper about CS1 going on a personal trip with you to Biloxi, Mississippi. Answer, he didn't. He had met her himself. But you knew it was against DEA regulation to go on a personal trip. I did. With a confidential source, I did. And you knew it was wrong. Yes, sir. And you did it anyway. For that trip, I was on the plane and we were going already. And so I went. How did she end up sleeping in the room that you paid for? How did they what? How did CS1 end up sleeping in the room that you had paid for? I don't understand. You said CS1 in Biloxi, Mississippi, step in the room that you paid for. Correct. On that trip, yes. How did that happen? Because we had two rooms. I had one room and my roommate had a room. We weren't separate. We were going to be in separate rooms because only he and I were going to go on a trip once my brother canceled. Didn't factor in that somebody else was going on that trip. So once I realized they were going, I said, you know what? We already got two rooms paid for. They took that room and my roommate and I stayed in the other room together. Question. So you gave her permission to stay in a room that you had paid for, right? Yes. Tell me about the second trip. I was leaving and the guys I went to college with, there was two things. It was an alumni we had raised $50,000 for an endowment at the university that we went to for undergrad. And there was a convention that was going on in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So you could look him up in some college books. Alright. You know, I be on my shit. So my roommate, same person who went to Biloxi, we were going to stay at, we had rented a hotel room. But one of our friends went to school with, wound up renting a house. So we were canceling out our rooms while we were going up there. But unfortunately, he got burned and he got seriously injured. He was burned. He was in the hospital. CS1 had talked to my college roommate and said at that time I wasn't even really talking to CS1, you know, as far as on a regular basis. And she and CS1 had spoken to my roommate and said, hey, you know, I don't even have to deal or talk to Keith. We can just hang out. He and her. She a seductress, Joe. He and her. And he said, fine. And that's how he left it. He said, you know what? This is the last time we all have an opportunity to see each other. And so this is it. And so CS1 went on a trip and got up there and she interacted with my roommate. Did she stay in the same house that you had rented? No, we couldn't stay. We wouldn't the get house because I don't understand. We wouldn't get the house, I believe, because the person who made the agreement to rent the house, he had third-degree burns from a grease fire, and so he couldn't go. So we were just left with the hotel room. So you stayed in the hotel together? Yes. And when was that? Do you remember the dates approximately when your friend got burnt? It was March 2014. And tell me about the trip that you went to Biloxi. Do you remember the date of that trip? That was sometime in 2012, in early 2012. Do you know? February, March. You said your relationship with CS1 was personal, but never intimate. No kissing, hugging, nothing like that? No, sir. And jumping back just for a second about the payments. Do you believe those started sometime in 2011 after you came back to work? Yes. The $2,500, I believe so. Yes, sir. And if she received $2,500 7 or 8 times before the August 28th, 2012 search warrant, would you have any reason to dispute that? Answer, what search warrant are you talking about? He know what search warrant he's talking about. I'm sorry, the warrant for the Title III application of Mr. Gatlin's phone. We all know that now, don't we? All right. I don't know when St. Louis signed the affidavits for Mr. Gatlin's phone. Question. Am I correct that you, well, let me just ask it this way. Did you ever tell the agents who were writing the documents for those payments to give confidential source number 1 credit for work that was done by someone else? I don't understand. I don't understand. Could you clarify what you're asking? He understands. Can you give an example? Okay, did you ever tell one of your subordinates to prepare DEA documents that outline some work, service, or information provided by a different confidential source that was changed in that report to give the credit for the work done by confidential source as work done by confidential source number 1? They are asking him, did another informant give information that Cromer gave credit to Tammy for, which would justify him paying her? His answer is no, sir. No, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. In February 2012 or March of 2012, a situation arose where it was a bad but a perfect storm to get 2 people to work together. CS1, after providing information relative to Cuff and Fidel, began to fear for her safety because of the purported violence that CS1 attributed to Fidel, to Cuff, and the people that Cuff knew. And at that same time, there was another confidential source who was working with us, but we were afraid because we had a lot of investigation deconfliction issues with a host of other agencies and also with some of the targets of the investigation we were working on, that we decided, and this is before St. Louis, DEA St. Louis, we hadn't spoken to them at all. We decided to take advantage of CS1 knowing Cuff and his associates. So we decided that we would bring those two together. They will work together. They would sit up there and explain, introduce each other to some of the people, to targets they were already familiar with. CS, the second CS, would meet. Is that person ever referred to as CS2? And what documents, Chroma asked. I understand it's difficult. Did you ever refer to her as CS2, the court? Why don't we approach? Maybe we should just come to a sidebar. The court in doing so, blase, blase, sorry, judge. Court recess. Thank you, Judge. Agent Chroma, you were describing. All right, so they back in action. Hold on. Agent Chroma, you were describing for us what you described as a terrible but perfect storm where you were using an individual that we referred to as CS1. Another individual we're now referring to as CS2 on the same event. Do you remember where you left off with your description of that event? Yes. Can you continue? I don't understand. What do you want me to continue? Question. You were describing an event where you had information about Mr. Gatlin. That's Cuff, y'all. That was in possession of CS1. That's Tammy. And there was another CS that had information and you were going to try to do something to put the two together. And you were describing an event that took place. Chroma says yes. Can you finish describing that event now that you know who we're referring to? Who the other person was, or you were telling us about an event where you used two confidential sources. Yes. One of which was CS1. Yes. And then you said there was another confidential source that had information you thought could be somehow used to make some sort of connection. There was a question about the making sure that we were on the same page as far as who that person was without saying their name. Then we went up and talk to the judge. Yes. And we clarify who the person was. Yes. And now what I'm asking you to do is complete your statement. Finish your answer. The court. Can you just start over, Mr. Welby, now that we know who CS is? The second CS. All right. I asked you about the incident in August 2020. All right. Yes. Where credit was given to Tammy, CS1, for work that was actually done by a different individual. When you started telling us about the event of February and March 2012, where there was some participation in the event by CS1, but CS2 was also there. Answer. There was no event. There was just a meeting. Question. In February or March of 2012, you instructed your subordinates to draft documents giving CS1 credit for work that was actually done by CS2. Chroma says no. What happened then? No, sir. In February or March of 2012, CS1 and 2 were introduced to each other then. Okay, and what happened when they were introduced? The answer. They were supposed to get together and meet and introduce the targets that each one of them knew to each other to get to know each other's targets. Man, diabolical. And what happened after that? Yeah, so they collaborated together. Okay, and when you described that event, after my question about an event where you gave credit to CS1 for work that was actually performed by a different confidential source, you can't remember how that answer was responsive to the question? Answer. No, I didn't. I don't recall the instance where I don't understand what you're asking for as far as, could you show me a document or something what you're saying, what you're talking about, because I have no idea what you're talking about. He said, all right, the attorney says, we can get to that a little later. The document part is going to be a little more challenging. But what I was basically asking was, prior to August the 12th of 2012, were there instances where CS1 was paid official government funds or money from the DEA for work that was actually done by a different confidential source? Chroma says, I don't know what you're talking about. Question, you don't understand the question? No, I don't know what you're talking about. Would you just show me whatever document you're talking about? Question. Are you refusing to answer the question? I just answered your question, Chroma says. Your answer is, I don't know? No. If you're asking me, did CS1 or CS2 get paid for work that someone else done? If it's a collaborative effort, then both of them did the work. What I asked you was prior to August 28th, 2012, did CS1 ever receive payments of funds from DEA for work that was performed by a different confidential source? Chroma says, I just answered that question. No, you didn't. Can you answer it now? I did. I said, Mr. Welby, Your Honor, I'd ask the court to instruct the court. I think he did answer the question earlier, Mr. Welby. But I'm not sure because my screen is scrolling. Are you able to answer the question again, Mr. Cromer? I thought he asked and I thought you answered, but the witness says yes. Answer, after. When those two collaborated and worked together, they were paid for the collaboration, work that they did, for the body of work that they did. Question, and that included work that was done by CS2. Chroma says by both. Did you ever tell subordinates to write the report in a way that would give credit to CS1? No. Did you ever tell your subordinates to put false information in the reports? No, sir. Did you ever tell your subordinates? Question answered. If I could just, I never told anyone to put any false information in any document, period. So I hope that clarifies you with that right there. Question, did you ever tell your subordinates to repeat the same information that was used in prior reports to justify subsequent payments to CS1? Answer, are you talking about like do a go by? I don't understand your line of questioning, sir. Did you ever use the same information on 2 or maybe even 3 occasions to justify payments to CS1? Answer, I don't understand what you're saying. What are you saying? If you would show me whatever document you're talking about, I can answer the question intelligently. Without the document, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to respond to that. The courts. And maybe, Mr. Welby, you can show him the document a little bit later, Mr. Welby. Yeah. Why don't we do that later? It might be simpler to just do it at that point in time. All right, so they get back to the question. Prior to the filing of the affidavit on August 28th of 2012, did you ever pay confidential source number 1 for information that she provided regarding Dion Gatlin? Who is Dion Gatlin? This dude vicious. Who is Dion Gatlin? Cuff. She got paid for information related to Cuff. Yes. Prior to August 28th, 2012? Yes. She was paid 18 or 19 more payments after August of 2012 for work that she provided for you and your unit. Is that right? I'm not sure how many times. Was she paid basically every month? I said monthly stipend. Yes, sir. $2,500? Yes. Did you ever promise to provide rent money for confidential source number 1? No, sir. Do you have any idea how much rent happened to be? No, sir. Did you ever tell her that you wanted to move closer to your residence so that you could see each other more often? No, sir. Are you familiar with the confidential source number 1's financial condition as it stood in August of 2012? No, sir. No idea whether she was rolling in money or on the verge of bankruptcy. I was familiar with the bankruptcy later, but not then. No, sir. And when did you learn of the bankruptcy? I'm not sure. But they did inform us that they were in the middle of a bankruptcy proceeding. And I'm correct that in order to justify these monthly stipends that you described, you would have to put in reports, things that confidential source number 1 did to warrant those payments that were on a monthly basis. What they were doing, yes, sir. Was it your hope that the information that she provided on Dion Gatlin could be used to further justify payments to confidential source number 1? If you're talking about August 2012, yes, sir. They were already being paid for the information, the cooperation that they were providing to the government for that. Next question. What is your hope in the August 2012 that any Additional information that might relate to Cuff or Mr. Gatlin could be used to justify future payments to confidential source number one? Answer: I don't understand your question. But let me say this right here. Once they came up with Fidel and Cuff, and once they started providing that information, and once it looked tangible where it could possibly do something, and then when it cross-sect with the St. Louis investigation, at that point, I had briefed my boss about it. And until the conclusion of that investigation, and they were involved in it, until those people were brought and arrested, and they were going, the $2,500 is just there. That is what it goes back to, is what I'm saying, is that it's inherently dangerous what they were doing. And so that's part of why they were getting paid, because of that right there, because they were cooperating, because things wound up come up or would come up. Sometimes if nothing was going on related to that, they wouldn't even, how do I say it? They sometimes, neither one of them had information, because the investigations were going and were ongoing. Still, the payments weren't contingent upon, you make a buy, you get paid, you do this, you get paid. No, as the investigation moved forward, it continued to go on until it was brought to a conclusion. They were getting paid that monthly stipend. It wasn't just them, it was other individuals who were working with us as well. They had that, what do you call it? That's the same principle they were getting paid under as well. Question: each month when you paid that monthly stipend, you had to document a reason to make that payment on that date. Is that correct? Or, answer, or when the money was funded, yes. And what you had at the least two things. That is what happened. If they had new information, the agent would put it down in there. If they didn't have any new information, then what would happen is they would just put in their ongoing investigation still. We knew because periodically I would speak with someone over here in St. Louis, over here in the St. Louis office, who would just tell me, hey, they are still going on. They are still doing what they are doing. And I said, that's fine. So as long as that was ongoing and they hadn't been arrested at the time, the payments were still good. And that's what we did. You peep the St. Louis do say, hey, they are still going on. They are still doing what they are doing. You see what St. Louis said? St. Louis, fuck with Baltimore. Shout out to St. Louis. And that went uninterrupted until the time when they were arrested. So it shows you that Tammy and him being arrested still come from this affidavit. And that went uninterrupted until the time they were arrested. And that time, sir, so you'll understand, now I understand what you are saying. At that time, so you'll know, when CS1 and CS2 were working together, they collaborated on cuffing Fidel. But again, like I said, CS2 was working on something else and working directly with the source of supply. With the source themselves, we were interrupting, we were intercepting, with the source themselves, we were interpreting on phones. And we made a decision to do two things. Before St. Louis were ever involved, we had made a decision where we were going to utilize the people that CS1 knew, and we were going to use them as customers and knock them off and arrest them, because the source of supply, all we're looking for is customer base. So that's all we were doing. It's just, hey, we're going to introduce Cuff and the other people that CS1 knew. We were going to introduce them to the people who were real drug traffickers that CS2 knew directly. And we were going to allow them to conduct the transaction, let the source of supply keep the money, and arrest cuffing them. Damn. But CS1 was afraid of them. And so we had to do it in a way where we were going to phase her out. That's the thing that you have to, we were phasing out CS1 because she was afraid of them. And so And I told her, I told CS1, we understand that you're afraid, but that's part of the reason why you're getting paid this money. So if you don't want to finish cooperating and doing it with them, then you don't have to do it. It's free and voluntary thing for her to do. She didn't have to provide the information. She wasn't under any, CS1 wasn't under any, what do I say, they weren't getting for a financial compensation. That's why they were cooperating with the government. So because they were afraid of them wasn't good enough to not do what we needed them to do, they made a decision to move forward and continue to do that. So we brought her in the fold. We had a discussion with the guys in the group with reference to, I asked the guys, what do you guys think? They said, yeah, that's a good idea, because we weren't going to target where a gentleman who is in another city and we are going to target him. We weren't going to target that. That was very inefficient on our end. So that's why we decided, hey, have them come over here. We'll let them introduce to a source of supply ones that we're familiar with, that is going to help serve the cause of what we're doing, and then we're going to knock them off. But before that happened, DA St. Louis we wound up speaking with them in reference to Fidel and Cuff. And from that point on, we made the decision to let DEA St. Louis run with the investigation dealing with Fidel and Cuff. And we wouldn't do anything to them enforcement-wise in Atlanta. Am I correct, sir, that prior to the involvement of DEA St. Louis, there were months where CS1 did not do anything to provide actionable intelligence, but she was paid anyway pursuant to agreement with her to be paid her the $2,500 a month stipend? Actually, intelligence as far as what we do and don't do and buy and bust. I don't do buy bust for my group, okay? I do long-term investigation, because I don't do a buy bust doesn't mean the information provided is invaluable. It's incumbent upon the agents to work it. You describe the court. Are you viable? Buy bust? What, buy bust? Okay, you're talking a little bit fast and using lingo that I don't understand. Most of y'all should know what a buy bus is. So if you could slow down just a little bit, I'm trying to follow along. That's what the judge is saying. Witness said, yes, ma'am. The court, all right, go ahead. Answer. So it's more than just doing a buy bus. It's making telephone calls. Again, like I said, my group did a multitude of wiretaps. And there are numbers that appear on toll records, on pen registers, on pen registers, or something that we don't know who they are. We make a call. We will provide those numbers to figure out if they are male, female, black, white, Hispanic, whatever you can find on those people who those numbers belong to. We need to try to identify who some of these people are and have an idea. So those things happen. That would beneficially help further what we're doing in the investigation, because you don't have a tangible thing at the time as far as an arrest. It doesn't mean that devalues the contribution they made. It furthers what we're doing. Question. You said earlier that there were months where there was nothing going on in the investigation. CS1 would be paid and you would document continuing investigation. Answer. No, sir, that's not what I said. What I said was there are some months where they didn't provide new information. It mattered not if they had new information at the time. If they didn't, they would still get paid based upon the ongoing long-term investigation that was being conducted. Either what we're doing here in Atlanta or what St. Louis is doing. And so because one of the things that when it came about, when we brought to attention to St. Louis in reference to CS1, is that at the end of the day, at the end they said, they asked me, hey, do we need to pay them? I said, no, because we already paid them a monthly stipend. They are squared away. They don't need any more money. So they didn't need to pay CS1 anything, because we're taking care of that. And it's CS1's responsibility to provide that information. And if something comes up that they needed or anyone needed, then it would happen. And so do you understand what I'm saying to you? Question. I think I understand what you're saying. In certain months, CS1 did not provide new information. Yes, sir. In certain months, she didn't actually go out and pick up money or pick up drugs. Is that right? Certain months, that didn't happen? Yes, sir. I ain't even reading, but I see my man on it. All right, anyway. Hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on. And there aren't certain months, blase, maybe didn't even make a phone call or something of that nature. No, I think pretty much I kept them active. They were doing something continuous throughout. And months where she wasn't doing anything new, you instructed the agents to document in the report to justify the $2,500 stipend continuing investigation. That's what you told the agent to write. Hold on one second. Oh my God. I know I ain't just do that, but yeah, we had to hold on. I just went all the way somewhere, way back to the beginning. I don't even know what page I was on. I know I was past that. Hold up. Give me 1 second. I knew I was past that. Down here somewhere. You don't participate. Three-way. Hold on. I gotta be right here. The court please proceed. Thank you, Your Honor. Agent Chroma. When we left, we were talking about the weekend of, oh, nah, sorry, hold on. You still here listening, homie? Boy, you look like, boy, your mother. Hold up, bro. I skipped a couple pages. Toll records, open pen records, something we don't know. When we make a call, we'll provide those numbers and figures so these things beneficially help earlier months. Hold up, I don't want to miss this one part. The breast said, are you viable by bus? Yeah, we good. Investigation CH1 would be paid and you would document contribute investigation. No, sir, that's not what I said. What I said was there are some months where they didn't provide new information. It mattered not if they had new information at the time. If they didn't, they would still get paid based upon the ongoing long-term investigation that was being conducted. Either what we're doing here in Atlanta or St. Louis is doing. Okay. And so because one of the things that when it came about, when we brought attention to St. Louis is in reference to CS1 is that at the end they said, all right, we already read that about them getting paid. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? All right, boom. In certain months, she didn't actually do blase, we passed that. And month where she did, we did that. All right, answer, no. I didn't tell when the agents had okay, so when the agents, that's what happened, is ongoing. And when the agents went to go speak to them or nothing new came up, they would just say, I don't know, I can't give you the exact verbiage of the language, but it's continue with the ongoing investigation. We were already aware of what that, everybody was aware what that investigation was. My boss was because I briefed him on it. Because when we, in 2012, I believe we wound up, the special agent in charge who was here in St. Louis became a special agent in charge of the Atlanta office. So I briefed my boss on all these things so he could keep track, not only because of that, but because of all the deconfliction issues we were having. So every month it came in. It was just a constant thing that was happening. Everyone was getting paid because they were actively there was an active investigation that was going on that they were a part of. And until that investigation is concluded throughout that investigation, because these people are dangerous, they got paid, and that's the documentation. That's what the documentation will reflect. Question, he asked it again, and that's what the documentation will reflect. Chroma says documentation was saying that they got paid for ongoing investigation. Okay, you described earlier that you learned that confidential source number one knew a man by the name of Cuff. Yes, sir. And am I correct that you said there a different confidential source knew of a man named Fidel Suarez? No, the same one. Confidential source one. She knew both of them, yes. And it was your goal to orchestrate the connection between Fidel Suarez and Cuff so that you could make a case and catch the big Mexican drug dealers? No, sir. Just try to identify initially who they were to try to corroborate what they were saying. And so that's why I took the steps I told you earlier of what we did. They came up with the same names. They told us the scenario, how CS1 came up with those names. Brick Squad sending me some more joints. Those names, and we were corroborating. And in corroborating, we had to leave it with Los Angeles because they were familiar with it. They already knew. They already were going with it, so we just left that with them. Question. So did the Los Angeles DEA facilitate the connection between Fidel Suarez and Dion Gatlin? Chroma says, I don't know what you're asking. He asked the question again. Did you, the DEA Los Angeles, facilitate a connection between Fidel Suarez in Los Angeles, California, and Dion Gatlin in St. Louis, Missouri? Answer. Dion Gatlin is cuffed, correct? Yes. Chroma says, okay, okay. If we could stay with, I'm not familiar, okay? No, CS1 provided us both names. We did the workup. The DEA St. Louis, because of some database search checks, we wound up speaking with the agent here in St. Louis initially with reference to Fidel and Fidel's number. But then in talking to them, I brought up the association with Cuff. And at that point, the agent said they were familiar with who he was and that they were investigating him already. So at that point, what I did, I advised them that we had CS1. I explained the situation, how what CS1 told us about how they were. She came across, CS1 came across both names. And then I asked them if they would like to speak to her. Taking a plea makes them, I can't get into that right now. Stand up, man. All right. Do you know, and I let them speak to her, question, do you know when the conversation took place? No, sir. Are you familiar with some of the events where there were some phone calls involving CS1? Confidential source number one, a group of phone calls that took place between her and Fidel Suarez and a man you know is Cuff. When? August 5th, 2012. Not that I can recall, no, sir. You don't remember anything happening on August the 5th, 2012. How is that possible, bro? Is that the week? I know the first weekend in August I was out of town, South Carolina. In 2012, yeah. Where were you? During the Olympics? Yes, I was out of town. I was in South Carolina. You were at the Olympics in South Carolina? No, sir. While the Olympics were going on, the Olympic Games in London were going on in 2012. That should have been the first weekend in August. I was in Newberry, South Carolina at a family reunion. Where did you stay? Hampton Inn. And what did you arrive? And what day did you arrive? What day did you leave? 3rd, left on the 5th. When did you get home? On the 5th? I don't know. Did you fly or did you drive? We drove. Okay, so you were not in Atlanta on the morning of August 5th, 2012. No, sir. Question. Were you working on the morning of August the 5th, 2012? I was in Newberry, South Carolina, sir. Did you have any telephone conversation with CS1 on August 5th, 2012? I can't recall. I don't know. You have no memory of having any telephone conversation involving CS1 from August the 5th of 2012? No, sir. My family and I drove back to the metro Atlanta area. If August 5th is August 5th, can we look at the calendar real quick to look at what day of the week it is? Sure. So that would help clarify. I'm going to show you what I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit 5. This purports to be a calendar from the year of 2012, drawing your attention to the month of March. It was I was in South Carolina. Didn't meet with CS1 on the 5th. No, sir. Didn't participate in any three-way phone calls. I could have talked to them on the phone, but I was in Newberry, South Carolina, and I know that because on August 4th, if I'm not mistaken, on the Saturday, Gallon Rupp won the silver medal in the 10,000 meters in the Olympic in London, and I was in my hotel room that day watching it, and I didn't leave until that Sunday after church. What time did you go to church Sunday? Well, I was in South Carolina. I don't go to church. It was just a family church service that we had. 9 o'clock, whatever. Around 9, 10 o'clock. Question. When I go to church, it takes about an hour, but some people, it's longer, right? It all depends on what you can take. How long do you think you were in church on August 5th, 2012? I don't know. Like a few hours? Answer, no, it wasn't a few hours. I don't know. Let's say an hour or two. What did you do after church? Then we drove back. We drove back to Atlanta. You were with your family? You left immediately from church? No, I didn't leave immediately from church. I talked to my parents, my relatives, and that was the first family reunion we had after my son passed away. The course, Mr. Welby, I'm going to have to ask you to find a nice stopping point in the next few minutes. No bullshit. Mr. Welby, this is fine. Let's just stop here, Judge. The court, are you sure? I know you have a busy calendar. This is fine. The court, are you sure? I'm okay with you asking a few more questions, but I want to give you a warning that we'll probably have to wrap it up pretty soon. Mr. Welby, I can stop now, Judge. Okay, Mr. Cromer, you're still under oath, and I must admonish you to not talk to anybody. All right. They took a break, so I'm going to take a break 1 second, but I'm going to get back to it. Let me roll me a J. My man told me months ago, I mentioned it to Eon. What? The government moved like that. Cuffy was driving Tammy around in blue Bentley. Pay attention. It don't make me no difference. I don't know. This sound like a movie, bro. It really maybe Meech knew and didn't act on it to try and get by being slick, or he didn't, but takes a special stand-up man to stand up with true conviction and principle. That's why St. Louis roll with DC. Shout out to motherfucking St. Louis and Baltimore. With Blue's paperwork, my brother. We ain't on Blue right now, bro. We on this. Some of these dudes work in silence and play solid. I'm getting tired of y'all keep trying to deflect. I'm not worried about Blue. Blue ain't in question. Blue ain't saying never told, never fold, death before dishonor. That's not what we talking about. Blue ain't saying come out to the Armorinum or wherever that junk. Meech is. We talking about Meech. Don't ask me about Blue. Don't ask me about this other case y'all keep talking about with Craig somebody. I'm talking about Demetrius, Tammy, and Chroma right now, bruh. I don't want to hear about nobody else. Every time I'm reading this, y'all keep saying about Blue. Go to Pacer and look up Burma McKnight or however you pronounce it. I'm not on Blue. I'm on this. This the big story right here. Blue been home for years. Why y'all all of a sudden talking about Blue? Why? Because Blue voiced an opinion about this Cuffy matter. That ain't what I'm on. My paperwork straight. I'm talking about this paperwork. Me slick talking and those type be slick in more ways. Yeah, all this question is going to lead to Demetrius. Skrilla might be on something, bro. You just read how it went. Damn, stop capping. What am I capping about? I'm still reading it. I'm just rolling the J. So did you snitch on yourself when you took the plea on your brother, on yourself, brother? What type of question is that, bro? This what they don't want to hear. St. Louis, if you from the town, homie solid, we rolling with him. He's somewhere in Miami, he probably ain't had hard to find. I ain't looking for nobody in Miami. Holy. Don't taking a plea means you snitch on yourself. Bruh, if you gotta ask a question, man, I ain't entertaining that one. You ain't talking about shit. You been reading for days, still haven't said where me said, bro. Hey, bro, you could get out of here. You ain't read nothing. You just get into much. You been reading for days and still don't say nothing about Meech. Bro, either you a rap lover or you an IMF member. Either way, I don't care nothing about you. Don't fake Meech fanboys keep bringing up Blue and Meech name and two other niggas' cases, black and white, Terry and Cuff. That's a fact. No face. What's the difference? Pay attention. You keep missing it. You look like you going to tell somebody right now. Brian McKnight or some shit. His name is not Brian, C-C-E-E. Note you can't be from St. Louis because we never called it the town. It's the city. It's the city, it's the city. That's right. Somebody on their lingo. I like that. You gotta be able to call them scammers out. Nah, I was just bullshitting. They mentioned Da Vinci. I said he's in Miami. Yeah, we ain't talking about Blue though. We talking about Demetrius. You know, Tammy was managing an artist from DC. For real? Who was the artist? Hold on, bro. Let me do this real quick. How long we been up here? Damn, we been up here over an hour already. I've been reading like a AI. That's too good. Hold up, E. Dude talking to me. Don't buy it, homie. Alright. So Agent Chroma, when we left off, we were talking about the weekend of August 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Do you remember that? Yes, sir. Am I correct that you testified that weekend was Memorial Day to you because it was the first family reunion since the passing of your son? Yes. Do you remember well what happened that next weekend? Man, it's almost 1 in the morning, bro. The next weekend was Memorial Day. Yes, you remember what happened every time. I know. I'm trying to skip through that. Do you remember the weekend you were with your family? You didn't participate in any three-way telephone conversations about work. Possibly could have, but I didn't. I could have, but I'm not sure. Not that you recall. No. Do you remember having a three-way telephone conversation with CS1 on August 5th, 2012? I don't know, sir. If you have phone records or something, it would help clarify. Let me show you what's previously marked as Government Exhibit M19. This is page 294, M19. The phone number you see there as the target phone. Yes, sir. Question, do you recognize that number? The target number? The one over here, yes, you know that number is associated with CS1. Yes, that's the number she was using in August of 2012. I'm pretty sure it says that, yes, sir. And we see these are a series of phone calls that took place on August 5th, 2012, with the log starting around 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, question. Is that when you were with your family? Yes, I said 10 o'clock, 10:45, 10:54 to be exact. Yes. We see a series of calls that come in over the next 3 or 4 hours, right? Yes. And during that time, you were with your family. Yes. You were not speaking on the telephone with CS1. I mean, I could have been speaking to her on the phone, but I wasn't. I could have, I was with my family. And you know what number you had, right? Yes. Do you see your number on any of the category? Called number dial? No. I'm going to give you a chance to see the bottom of the exhibit. Okay. No, sir. So there's no three-way call, no call to you, no call between your phone and CS1 phone on August 5th, 2012. Answer: I don't know, because I don't know if this is from a pen register or toll. I don't know if this would show if it was three-way phone call or not. So I can't tell you that. Question: looking at this phone registry, do you see any place on here where your number appears? Can you do me a favor? Can I see the hard copy of the paper which you're looking at? Yes, instead of looking at this on the screen. All right, y'all. Okay, yes. I'm going to give you a hand previously marked 19. Okay. Do you see any evidence on the government's exhibit M19 of any phone call made to you by CS1 on August 5th, 2012? Not on this phone, no, sir. Not from the sheet I'm looking at right here. Question: are you aware, other than looking at the exhibit you have in front of you, do you have any memory of any such phone call? Let me qualify this for you. I just want you to answer the question first. Mr. Hogan, let him answer the question, please. Can you answer the question in court? Yes, go ahead. Let me qualify this for you. CS1, CS2, and the other CS we had, I basically talked to them almost every day because we were so busy. I talked to them when I was off and while I was working. I talked to them basically pretty much every day on multiple phones. So I don't know what this is. I could have possibly talked to them that day. I don't know. But it wouldn't be unusual for me to talk to them while I'm off work, because I talk to them all the time, very frequently. As you sit here today, do you remember any three-way telephone calls on that morning? The morning you were at the family reunion and going to church and driving back and forth from South Carolina. Do you remember any calls with CS1? God damn, bro. Answer: it possibly could have been, but I can't recall. If you have a document or something that says where I'm a party to it or a witness to it, then please show it to me. But if not, I can't answer that question like that. You want to make a generalization on something that I can't recall if it didn't or did happen. I talk to them all the time. What's the point? The document that you have in front of you, does it have your phone number on there anywhere or any number associated with you? Answer: I can say this. I can tell this isn't a pen register. This is just dial tones, which you won't have in here. If a number came through blocked, the number wouldn't show up on here even though you are actually talking to the person on the phone. The only way you're going to know is if you have a pen register. And we have actually dialed digits coming in, or not even if it's blocked or not. This is just tolls from, it looked like from, they came from some phone company and then put in a pen spreadsheet. So this is totally different. So there could have possibly been phone calls, but just didn't register on that phone in the tolls that were captured by the phone company at the time. Do you see your number anywhere in the government's exhibit? The court: I think he's already answered that. God damn, this nigga's annoying, bro. This nigga's annoying reading this nigga. Is the answer no? I said no. Do you see any evidence on this document of a three-way call that you can tell just by looking at the phone call? Do you or anybody else associated with the DEA? Mr. Hogan, ask and answer, Judge, and explain. For real, like, this is irritating. I agree, sustain, whatever. If someone initiated a three-way call, would they have to dial both parties? No, sir, because with the amount of technology, what you have, one person can initiate a phone call to someone I don't know what they talking about. To someone and talk to that person. Another person can call in, and then you can merge both of those phone calls together. So it's not incumbent upon one person to call. All right, we know all that. Man, I'm about to skip that, y'all. So it can be done in two ways on both numbers. Call you, but if you initiate the call, you would have to at least make one of the calls. If you're initiating a phone call, you're making it. Yes, your outgoing phone call. Yes. Can you initiate a call from a block number to a block number? I don't understand that. If someone calls in on a *67 number, can you return that call? If someone calls into your phone on a block number, yes. Can you return the call? If you, I don't even know how to answer that. Is it fair to say that if someone calls you on a block number, you can't just hit call back unless you picked up, unless you answered the phone and you spoke to them? Man, they want bullshit. And then you something, right? They told you something about the call, about that call. They told you the phone number. Say, hey, I just called you on a block number, but here's my real number. Then you could call them back. I don't even know how to answer that. No bullshit. Can you look at page 294 on that same exhibit? Yes, sir. Do you see the number that starts with 2323? Yes, sir. As you look down the page, every phone call that starts with 232, I don't know why they said it differently. Are all those incoming numbers? Mr. Ray, I'm sorry, you said 232, 323. Yeah, like he tripping, bruh. He can't be talking slick like that. They can't remember what the hell the number is. Yeah, 323 number. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, this page on 294. Yes, sir. Incoming calls. Yes, I see that. All right. So none of those calls would have been initiated by the telephone number that starts with 770 number. Those are all incoming calls to that number. Yes. And that's true also of the one where there's a 1 minute 35-second conversation at 13:05, which is 1:05. That's incoming call. I see that on the record. Yes, sir. And that would not be a call initiated by CS1. Answer. Can you repeat that in a way I can understand it? If it's an incoming call to CS1, yes, it's not a call that's initiated by CS1. Correct? On this sheet, do you see any numbers where CS1 is initiating a call to anybody associated with the DEA? Can I have specific numbers about who we're talking about in the DEA? Are we talking about DEA St. Louis? Are we talking about DEA him? I'll clarify. Thank you. Rephrase. Do you see any number on the government's exhibit, page 294, that are associated with you, Cromer, or anyone else in the DEA Atlanta that's on your team? That's a good question. On page 94, 294, the ones we've been looking at. Answer. I don't recognize any of the numbers on this page. Question. Looking at. I don't recognize any numbers on this page. Did you help provide DEA St. Louis with the information about CS1 and the preparation of the affidavit for the Title III wiretap of Mr. Gatlin's phone? Did you help provide DEA St. Louis with information about CS1 in preparation of the affidavit for the Title III wiretap on Mr. Gatlin's phone? As far as the information pertaining to CS1, what type of information? Well, let's just do that. Any information pertaining to CS1. Mr. Hogan, can we have a point in time, Your Honor? Is it 2011, 12, 13? Can we have a point in time? Question. In August 2012, did you provide DEA in St. Louis with any information that you knew would be utilized in the preparation of the Title III wiretap application for Mr. Gatlin's phone? God damn. CS1 spoke to the agents in St. Louis themselves. Did you, Mr. Cromer, provide any information to DEA in St. Louis for the preparation of the wiretap? Only thing possible was that CS1 was working with financial, what? Only thing possible was that CS1 was working for financial compensation. What? Did you tell them any of the information you shared with us this morning about your relationship with CS1? No, sir. You did not tell DEA St. Louis that you were involved in a personal relationship with CS1 in August of 2012? Chroma says, no, sir, because what I interacted with CS1 about was my mental state, my depression, the things such as that. I didn't have any bearing. That didn't have any bearing on those things. Their motive to provide the information on Cuff and Fidel were for financial compensation. That's what it is. And that's all you told them? Yes, sir. You acknowledged earlier that you knew it was wrong to be in a personal relationship with CS1. Yes. Oh, the answer to that is yes, sir. Yes, as far as having interpersonal contact with them was a violation of DEA policy. I don't give a fuck about what you talking about. Am I correct? Did you not share that information with Special Agent Barrett Johnson? Correct. Or anyone else in the St. Louis DEA team? Anyone with DEA period? Mr. Well, may we approach honor? Good God, man. With the witness, please. Keep Cromer sealed. All that shit you can't see. Let me ask you this. Just one follow-up question on August the 5th. Do you remember any? Do you remember any? Do you remember any time being present with CS1 in person with her from 10 a.m. Eastern Time until, let's say, 4 p.m. Eastern Time? Chroma says, no, sir. Do you remember giving a statement on August 19th of 2015 with the assistance of a representative with the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association? With what statement? Do you remember making an oral statement about the events relating to your separation from the DEA? Oh, my security clearance? Let's start with that. Let's start there. Do you remember making a statement about that at some point in time? Yes, I made some statements. Did you explain to the individual asking the questions in the presence of the attorney with the FLEOA, James Osgood, that you were distraught by the passing of your son in September of 2011? Yeah, I'm sure I said that. Why? And did you tell him that was the impetus of where I am today? Yes. And that you didn't know how to process the death and you went to the EAP with the DEA? Yes, sir. And the EPA, that's the Employee Assistance Program you mentioned earlier in your testimony. Yes, sir. And did you tell the authorities that the decisions I've made have put me in a position to hurt myself? That's why I'm here today. Can you repeat that? Did you tell the person asking you questions about those events, the decisions I've made put me in a position to hurt myself? Why I'm here today? I don't think in that context, how you read it, I stated it like that. But if I can tell you, what I said was in not being healthy and processing my son's death. I tried initially to go through the proper channels with EAP, but my trust there was violated because they told people about it. And so I was afraid to let people know that I was suffering from depression and survivor's guilt and anxiety from his passing, and I'm devastated. I was in just trying to deal with it the best that I can. So in hiding it, I chose the wrong person to talk about, interact, and explain my interpersonal feelings, how it has impacted me and my family. And that right there, by doing that decision, I hurt myself by making that decision, by being afraid and not being able to articulate or find a healthier person, a more appropriate person to speak to about those things. And that is the whole crux of all of this, sir. Question. And that inappropriate person you described was CS1? Yes, sir. Is it true that you told him that all of these circumstances were simply too much as related to my son's death? Right. It bore on me a lot. Yes, sir, it did. And I didn't, how can I say this? I still struggle with it today, okay? I'm just, to be perfectly candid, I struggle with it every day, but I'm doing better, and that's it. But back then, back in the fall of 2011 and 12, you found comfort in confidential source number one. The court, are you able to answer the question? Answer. The answer, comfort, no. I found a sounding board for someone who, and it wasn't in the fall, it was later on in the winter towards the end of the year, okay? 2011. And yes, I let my emotions go. I broke down crying. I did those things quite frequently, all the time. And so I wish I would have had the wherewithal that I have now, the strength to not feel embarrassed or guilty that my son passed away. And that person, as a decent human being, I didn't go to them to that. They approached me about it, and I didn't even say anything because I wasn't even talking or speaking. I was barely functioning as a human being, even when I came back to work. But I struggled though. I struggled through it, and I still struggle through it now. But being a decent human being, that's all I looked for. Somebody to help me understand what I was going through. I tried to do it through the proper channel. That's my fault. From that point, I should have found out about a better person. And that, at the end, that's what it comes down to. I should have found a better person than who it was, okay? And so I say that in retrospect to what some of the things of the allegation of what you're saying. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here to discuss my personal life, the work, the stuff. I take everything that we did as far as for St. Louis or what we did was spot on. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no lie, deception, anything with one piece of paperwork, nothing. And I want you to understand that. And I want the government to understand that. There's nothing. The people who were involved with it, who worked with me, we did everything correct. Everything is right. And there are no lies with any. There are no lies with any of that, okay? There's nothing that was deceptive through the course when it started until the day that these gentlemen arrested the target of that investigation. There is nothing wrong with any of this. No deception happened until after they got arrested and the person realized the impact of what they assisted the government in doing and didn't like that and didn't like the possible exposure they were going to get. But the investigation and everything was perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Now he the DEA, he the feds and all that. But do you dig what he's saying in that last paragraph? No deception happened until after they got arrested and the person realized the impact of what they assisted the government in doing and didn't like it and didn't like the possible exposure they were going to get. But the investigation and everything was perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with any of that. So hold on. But as far as I accept what my responsibility as far as what I violated DEA policy. But the other things you talked about manufacturing some payments or something like that, oh no, I definitely didn't do any of that, any of those things. And the sexual relationship part with CS1, sexual, what did I tell you, sir? I haven't had, I never want to be ridiculed or embarrassed, but I am at the point, like I said on that August, whatever day I am at a point. I hurt myself. I hurt my career. I'm a very good agent. I'm a very conscientious, very honest, and I make everybody around me work. Either agent, a task force officer, intel analysis. I make everybody work. And the CSs, they are going to work. But I hurt myself by not processing that. And I hurt myself with my career wise. I hurt those around me. I hurt in those areas, and I have to accept that and deal with that right now. And I have, I've apologized to the guys in my group who had to be inconvenienced by this, and my family. I had to tell them. I said, hey, and they understand. But the thing is, sir, there is nothing wrong with the work at all. And I can look at you, and I can look at the judge, and I can look at everybody in this courtroom and tell you that work is solid. That's solid work. The court, Agent Cromer, thank you. But let's get back to the question and answer. The witness, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. So you're saying that CS1 is lying? So you're saying that CS1 is lying? Nikki B, Brick Squad, what's up? So you're saying that CS1 is lying? In retrospect, how can I say this? If they are saying that they didn't do any work or we paid them for no reason, yes, that is not true, okay? If it came up of the allegations from what I understand, I'm just going to answer because yes, if they said they didn't do any work and they got paid for no reason, that's not true. All right, that's Chroma said. Okay. And it goes back to what I said. That doesn't become a factor until after they are arrested, when they realize the impact of what they've done in the discovery. Her actions did say that too, man. It was on pacing. And that, sir, is one of the things going through this whole process, getting CS1 and CS2 together, is because to minimize exposure of CS1 to the people who she was afraid of. And we brought CS2 in to take over those negotiations dealing with Cuff when he came to Atlanta. When CS2 introduced him to Diego, who is a real drug trafficker. CS2 introduced him to Diego, who is a real drug trafficker. And they came up with their own plan to sell drugs after, I don't know what happened with Fidel, because I left St. Louis alone to work their own investigation how they wanted. The only thing we did was support something they needed. That's all we did was support them. And so it goes to your assertion that CS1's value, or she didn't really do anything. Look at every step of what we're talking about here. She provided us with information nobody knew about. Then we looked at it. Then we're going to short side a buy bust and do a deal with them. But St. Louis came in. We let them have the information, and CS1 provided them with that information. Oh, that's true, but like dude said, he ain't really talking about meat yet, but we're going to keep reading. Hold on. We got about 20, 30, 40. We got about 30 more pages. I got to like this, Jay, for that. Chroma, somebody said Chroma is lying. He was an agent. He is an agent. Y'all think the like button got bad work? Hit him up. Get him up out of here. All right. Information. Then it came back when I discussed with GS of the group. I can't recall his name right now. And their target, Cuff, was looking for a new source of supply, right? So, I already had it worked out because CS1 and CS2 already had been working already, and they collaborated. So it was an instantaneous thing. If St. Louis wanted something to happen, we made it happen for them. And the only way that could have happened is a collaboration between CS1 and CS2 from months before, and that worked out perfectly fine. Question: Is it true that on June 15th of 2015, your eligibility for national security information, your security clearance was suspended? Yes, sir. Is it true that it was suspended for your personal and sexual relationship with CS1? In part, for that reason, they, yes, sir, for the allegation of sleeping with someone. But, sir, the allegation came up in May of 2014, okay? And I want you, this is very important. And what I'm saying to you is that I'm telling you right here, I haven't had a, excuse me, I don't even like saying this in court. It's embarrassing to me. But I have to right now, but I have to right now, so you can have a context for everything that's going on. I haven't had a, I explain why, since 2011. After my son's death. Okay, so when they looked at those things from there, you only got from 2015, 2014. That's the original allegation. When I read it, I said, there's a problem here with this right here. I look, there's a problem with those statements, with those allegations right there. But it's also in there where it says that we paid them for nothing. And that's not true either, because I got approval every step of the way from my supervisor who signed all the paperwork. But none of that is mentioned in there because that wasn't the form right there to address those questions right there. It's basically benign. These are the allegations. Based upon those allegations, they didn't care what the look into the OPR investigation. They didn't take that into consideration. They just took it on face value of what was there, and that's what my security clearance was suspended for. And those allegations were made in May of 2014. Yes, sir. Am I correct? Yes. And it says that the relationship was a personal relationship, a sexual relationship, right? You went on a date. You went on dates to restaurants and movie theaters that was the findings that caused you to lose your security clearance. That was the allegations themselves. And I can tell you this right now, in there, what you didn't read, which I know it's in there, it says one of the things it talked about was in my OGV. I've already explained to you. I didn't go to the movies with CS1. I didn't go at all. Okay? I didn't go at all. So she might have told him that, but I just told you the circumstances of what happened, okay? So you have something, written something, but that's not what happened. And you're talking about the restaurants. Didn't go with me in my OGV to any restaurants. And I'm a bad driver. Nobody likes driving with me. Do you understand? I went every place I went. I drove by myself, and I didn't invite them to some of these places because of the relationship they had with my brother. They knew some of the locations I went to, and they showed up there only to eat. There's no salacious activity going on. And so the other thing that came up on the court, Agent Cromer, the witness. I'm sorry, man. But that's what you have right there. So those are the allegations for the security suspension, but nobody looked into it at that time. And I guarantee you, by the time in June of 15, when that came out right there, they had interviewed people, and some of that staff you could have cleared up right then. If one of the things nobody has ever asked me a question about, the court says, until now, right, Your Honor. Mr. Welby, please ask another question. Hold on 1 second, bro. Please ask another question, bro. This shit is better than the movies. Screenwriter couldn't have read this if I would have read this. Oh, it's 99 likes though. Ah, shit. Man, appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I said it got kind of late, but we will go ahead and finish this jump. That's how I used to be when I was in the jump reading the case law. What go your guy say? I'm on my last run. We on my last run. Damn, Chroma talking a whole lot of line. Nikki B, 100 likes. Let's get it up. He trying his best not to mention Meech. Bro, I know you say you don't think Meech lined up Cuff. I ain't say that, but Cuff said himself he talked to Meech, and Meech said I got some good people here with Tammy. And reference the link, it was Suarez. Oh, my man sent me something. Locking in E. All right, let's go. Please ask another question. All right, Your Honor. Did you speak often with CS1 about the personal lives of your coworkers? Personal life? Some I spoke about. I don't understand that one right there at all. I never understood. Some of my coworkers, you'd have to, she knew them. She knew them a lot longer than she knew me because CS1 had been working for the group well before I got there. He going on her. Appreciate you, Nikki B. Much love. Salute, salute, salute. Because CS1 had been working for the group well before I got there, and so she knew, CS1 knew certain things about them already that I didn't have to discuss. The only thing she brought up and confirmed she knew by listening to her, she knew things about the people in the group. And see, I'm sorry. So is it true? Is that a yes? You did speak to her often about personal lives of your coworkers? Oh, no, not often. No, sir, not often. Who I spoke to about their personal life is me. Do you spend a lot of time? Did you spend a lot of time at her residence? I went there a few times, yes, sir. Not a lot of time, but I did go there. And if the finding was that you spent a lot of time at her residence, there's no finding. Don't say the word finding. Skrilla, appreciate the love, man. Appreciate the love, man. Y'all rocking out with the team, Brick Squad. There's no finding. Don't say the word finding because there's no finding with anything. They based it on the allegations, okay? Your security clearance was revoked based on a determination or based on information that you spent a lot of time at CS1's residence. In part, that's a question. What you've read in there is the reason they based the suspension on just what's in the initial paperwork, because if they would have looked into it, then you would have found out some different facts. That's what's in there. While you were spending time at the residence, did you monitor DEA radios while the rest of the group was out working? No, sir. You know, I will say this. I didn't even have a DEA radio because I lost mine on a operation deal. So I didn't have a DEA radio. Did you provide CS1 a telephone number for a target of an investigation and then instruct her to call a DEA task force officer and pass the TFO the target's number? I did that hundreds of times, not just with her, with CS2 and a whole multitude of other CSs. Yes, I explained that to you earlier though. What would identify numbers on pen registers and toes, and we would identify numbers and pen registers and toes, and I would have them call that number to see who it is, a male, female, black, white, Hispanic, because that's what my group did. That's what I had expertise in, is wire intercepts. So we know that, huh? So that's what I had instructed her to do, not just one time, a multitude of times. In fact, with the CSs, hundreds of times, I had them do that right there. Did you give her a piece of paper with a phone number and the name of a person named Bootsy and have her call that into a task force officer at the DEA? Named who? Bootsy. Sir, no, I never heard of anyone by that name. Was one of the reasons stated for the revocation of your security license, that is, was reported that you had promised to pay CS1's rent for approximately 2011 through 2014? Answer. Let's go over that right now. Again, that's one of the things, and it gave me time to reflect on this. Sir, I didn't agree to pay anybody's rent. We just agreed to pay $2,500 a month stipend. What they did with it was what they did with the money they had earned by cooperating with the government. Was no concern of how they spent it. And so just for your edification, she wasn't. CS1, as far as the bankruptcy and stuff, and talking with the agents and talking, they wasn't paying any rent on the place because they were living in a place mortgage free because they were letting the place foreclose on them. And it wasn't until after, I believe it was advised by DEA St. Louis in May of 2013 as far as anything with rent. So I want you to let that be clear about this. When they did an enforcement, St. Louis DA did an enforcement activity in 2013. And I think in May, I believe. And at that point, somebody got arrested. And then I advised her that, hey, look here. I didn't tell her that somebody got arrested. I said, but if I get this right, they called looking for her, trying to figure out who. That's what it is. Excuse me. As far as they called, Cuff called CS1 asking her how to get in contact with CS2. And at that point, I told CS1 to tell Cuff, you don't know how to get in contact with her anymore. And at that point, I advised her, after I was advised by St. Louis that someone got arrested. Whoa. I don't know who it is, but that somebody got arrested. And at that point, they said, hey, I'm going to move away because I'm going to lose the house. So I'm going to move. We said, okay, fine. The only thing myself and Agent Smith did, because as far as rent was concerned, no rent was discussed. What we discussed is trying to find and locate a new place because CS1, because of the bankruptcy, didn't think they had good enough credit to rent an apartment or something. So we went out, and because we knew about a particular place, and we approached the management at the time, at the management office, and said, hey, look, we have somebody because I've done this before. And they said, all right, fine. But CS1 had already found a location on their own, and they moved in and didn't need any assistance from the government, but they were still cooperating, so they were still getting paid $2,500 a month. Damn. There was no agreement where we were going to pay the rent or something like that. What they did with the money was their business and concern. It had nothing to do with me and any of the agents who worked for me. Question. Is one of the other reasons you lost your security clearance is the report that you directed agent TFOs under your supervision to falsify official documents to make fraudulent payments of official agency funds to confidential source number one? In total, you provided CS1 with more than $97,000 in official agency funds. Okay, that's what's there. But again, I got to go back again to what I just explained to you. Is that when you go back and look, every single payment, there was a justification for every single payment made. I didn't make the final approval. My supervisor did. I briefed them on everything that was going on, and based upon that approval, he approved it because he deemed it worthy as far as an investigative expense that was worth doing. We were very productive as a group. No issues about anything. And the people who did the work for us got financially compensated for it, which she did. Did you sign off on those payments? I signed off on it, but my supervisor approved it. I never approved that one payment. I signed off on it because I agreed, because they were working for all of them that they were working, and I agreed with it, and I moved it forward for it to get approved, and that's what happened. And isn't it also true that after you lost your security clearance in June of 15 that you were indefinitely suspended from the DEA? Yes, because you can't work without having your security clearance. And that wasn't until September of 2015. And is it that still your current status with the DEA that you're indefinitely suspended? Investigative expensive, that's why they use Meech's name, dummy. Buffalo Bills. Whatever, bro. I don't give a fuck about what you talking about. And is that still your current status with the DEA? That you're indefinitely suspended? Yes, sir. And you've never gotten your security clearance back. Well, if I had the security clearance back, I wouldn't be on indefinite suspension. So you don't have your security clearance back. Yes, I said that, correct? No further questions, Your Honor. The court, do you have any cross-examination or anything? Yes, I am. Mr. Humphrey O'Connor has been advised to drill was scheduled for yesterday's going to be about 5 minutes. All right, boom, bang, boom, bang. How long? U.S. Marshal usually going to take half an hour, 35 minutes. All right. Don't have to evacuate. 5 drill. Now they had 5 drill. All right, the court, so let's plan to restart when the bell starts. All right, witness, yes, man. All right, we almost done, bro. We got like 20 more pages. Cross-examination. Good afternoon, Mr. Cromer. All right, you still with me? Me's mad because the feds fucked him on his life rights and made a fool of him and his own people slandering his name. I'd be mad too. Oh yeah. Let me take small money for business. That's crazy, bro. Salute to ASAP Rocky too. Gotta make that restoration. Yeah, shout out to ASAP Rocky. Got found not guilty. 50 Cent said he bet 500,000 on that. All right. I just wanted to go through and clarify a few things from earlier testimony. Now you mentioned there was some instance where you met up with CS1 that were, I suppose, in random fair assessment. What do you mean by random? Your interaction with CS1, there was one occasion where you were at a restaurant and she was there also. No, if you listen to what I said, I was at the restaurant, okay, by myself, and my brother would come where I was at. He would speak to her and she would ask, where you going? I'm going to meet my brother, and she would come there too. The location, she would come to the location, so that had everything to do with your brother. But I know I ain't crushed that other one. Oh, that would have something to do with your brother, yes, sir. And there was also the incident at the airport, yes, sir, obviously. You've testified that you knew that any relationship with CS1 weren't appropriate. Any personal relationship. Inappropriate contact, yes, sir. So, sure, did you have any concerns that CS1 was perhaps stalking you? Answer, no. It was no, sir, I didn't think that. I didn't think about anything like that. Only thing, the premise of it all was dealing with and talking about what I've already explained to you about me and just coping and dealing with life. So was your sound, so she was your sounding board. I used her as a sounding board. Yes, so now you were the group supervisor of group 2. Yes, sir. And you were the person who would assign, who would be the controlling agent for any of the confidential sources. No, sir. It was incumbent upon the agents themselves to, if they developed someone who would become, we would evaluate. Agents would develop the person. We would evaluate them to see what they had or didn't have, how it could be beneficial to us, and then made the decision either to sign them up or not. Okay, so obviously you met CS1 through Jack Harvey, yes, sir, and you determined at that point that CS1 should remain active following the retirement of Jack Harvey. Yes, after speaking with Agent Smith, TFO Aguilar, and Special Agent Swoop, okay, so after talking to them, you made a group decision that she should remain active? Yes, sir. Prior to Jack Harvey's retirement, what was CS1 doing for Group 2? Well, he was controlling her. Jack had a different philosophy as far as working than I did. And he did primarily historical cases, just taking information from people and trying to build up that way. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just didn't believe in that way. I just didn't believe in that way of working. And since he's a senior agent, just let him go about his business and do that. Once he retired, I said, okay, we're going to have a different perspective as to what I expect. Initially, the agents in the group came and said, hey, we'll work her. They'll look at the people locally that CS1 was dealing with and said, fine. God damn, she was just setting up Atlanta. And through the course of that, we explained that we went over the whole, like I explained earlier, we went over and spoke to CS1 and said, listen, we're going to need you. We're going to have a different way that we're going to work. If you do it, if you provide the information and it results in a long-term investigation, we'll pay you $2,500 a month until the conclusion of the investigation. At the same time, we're going to ask you to do certain things for us. That could be possibly money pickups, meetings. I want you to identify phone numbers, or we might have a task for you. I can give you an example for CS1. We were looking over some suspicious activity reports from financial information on some bank accounts that were laundering in excess of $1 million and something dollars a year through this one account with this company, right? And so Special Agent Swoop has CS1 go out to the business, identify and try to make identification and contact with people at the business right there. So those are the kind of things that it might not have been something that they brought to the table, but something we had and we utilized their resources to do. Question. Okay, so you didn't necessarily rely upon her knowledge of a target. Sometimes you would just utilize her to pursue a potential target. Yes, sir. Was she doing any of that type of work previously for Jack Harvey? Yes. Do you know how many cases she worked for Jack Harvey? One case in particular, I came to the group in 2010, February. CS1 had worked on some individuals who were distributing a large quantity of drugs, and they were arrested, assets seized, and so that was at least since 2008, I believe. And as a part of that agreement, part of that arrangement with Jack Harvey for what she did with the case, was CS1 receiving any compensation? It was in advance. How do you say from what was they were put in for a portion of the what was seized, right? Real property, physical property, and like any through the assets forfeiture program, it took multiple years for it to adjudicate and go through that process. In the interim, and this is the one of the things CS1 had spoke to Special Agent Swoop about and complained to him and Agent Smith, was that cooperating with the government with how they did it caused them to go into financial ruin, and felt that working and agreeing and cooperating with the government should put somebody in dire financial straits if they are cooperating. Man, she want to change the game for everything, bro. She a spoiled brat. They brought that concern to me, and I agree with them, and that's why I said, hey, this is how we're going to do it different. If you work, you provide information, you get on a case, you should be financially compensated for it. And so that's how we came up, because I was already applying that method with two other people prior. the two other CSs that the group were utilizing at the time. And so we brought CS1 into the fold with that right. Then based upon that, and after expressing the concern, sat down and listened to it, agreed with it, advised them of what our intentions were. They agreed with it, and we moved forward from that point. But unfortunately, from having a conversation in July unexpectedly, like I said, I was gone for a period of time, and once I returned, I'm not really sure when the payment started, but I believe it was after I returned back from after my son passed away. Okay, as part of going through this process of financial ruin, did Jack Harvey put her in for an award for the proceeds that were seized? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it was that payment that took a while to go through the works and actually be processed? Yes, sir. And that was they played a role in her remaining active as a confidential source. He says, yes, sir. Now, you mentioned that after you decided to go to the stipend process, in the essence of something like this, this wouldn't happen again. Is that fair to say? Yes, but it wasn't predicated on CS1. There was another CS who was doing the same thing. That CS, you don't know how the investigations are going to go. You can seize money at the beginning and it gets dispersed, but you wait till the end. You might arrest the person in drugs but no money. So there's no money for them to be put in for an award for. So I believe it's most effective to pay as you develop and have these seizures throughout the course of the investigation instead of waiting till the end. Now, so you can understand, one person did like this. That person wound up getting at one time paid $300,000 at one time because they assisted the government with the investigation. But we seized $4 million at one time. I gave them $300,000 out of that $4 million for that because they worked on the case. We seized a lot of drugs like a ton of cocaine and heroin and methamphetamines, but we didn't have any money that we seized. Well, we had some, but it wasn't. So I changed my philosophy anyway. And I only did that after conferring with people who were familiar with the process, and that's why I did it. And that's why I did it. And how did you document that change of philosophy? Because you start seeing DEA 12s every month. I spoke, hold on. Ugh. My bad. With the synergy, boom, boom, boom. DE 12s, I signed off. The agent signed it too. I signed it, and my supervisor approved it. And then the agents will pull the money from the cashier. They will go fill out the forms, pay them, and then bring with their signature on it and bring it back. So that's how you saw the change of how we were doing it when it came about, and it was approved from because you have to have anything over $2,000 have to have an approval for the person over me. And for all of them, it was $2,500 that was paid to them in this manner because it's effective. It really is effective, and it gave them an incentive to continue to provide something beyond just the regular thing they were doing. Okay, so who was your supervisor at that time that you instituted this change of philosophy? He says John Murphy. And you said that the payments then would have been processed through DEA 12 forms. You pull the money off on a DEA 12, and then the CS signs a DEA 103 with their signature on it, the agent's signature and the CS's signature, and then the forms are submitted back to the cashier. Okay, and so in that process, there's a submission of DEA 103s. Yes, sir. And as a group supervisor, you're familiar with the DEA 103. Let me ask you a couple of quick questions, and then we're going to get back to the DEA 103. As far as the confidential sources that were controlled by your group, yes, sir. Were you the main individual who actually controlled the confidential sources? No, sir. As far as the confidential sources that were assigned to your group, did you make all of the payment decisions, including when and how much a CS would be paid? As far as the monthly stipend, that number, that stayed the same. The $2,500 stayed consistent. Okay, so that was, I made the decision as far as the amount of money, and I kept it across the board consistently the same. $2,500 per month per CS. Who met the criteria that we had? Now, it was discretionary how much a CS would get paid, wasn't it? They could have been paid more or less. Yes, that's the question. They could have been paid more or less $2,000, 1,900. All right, 2,500. Explain why. Through the course of my career, I've seized and cashed between 60 and $80 million. God damn. And I don't touch it. I don't deal with it. I'm very conscientious about dealing with the government's money. And I felt doing this was right here was the easiest way to pay them because you can see the documentation flow. And if anybody had a concern about it, they could have looked at it. I've been audited and everything is fine. So that's why it's a safety mechanism for us as the agents, as well as by getting the approval instead of saying I made a unilateral decision without anyone's approval or say so. And that's the reason why I did it that way. And I made it known to everybody that's why I did it. How does a CS go about getting paid? What do you mean? The process, the paperwork. I just explained it to you. Well, you mentioned that there was a DA 103. The agent fills out the DA 12 and it says payment information, an amount that it has in line for agent for me as a supervisor. Oh, shucks. For an agent as a supervisor. Damn, y'all been going in, bro. I couldn't even see it. Reggie doesn't cover copy and indictment. All right, bet. And the king, man, I'm about to skip through this part about this DEA. I'm trying to get back to the other part. 103 signed signatures. All right. That ain't, you know. And these are documents that have not been previously provided. Everyone can see. All right, but we ain't talking about, you still talking about the D. I'm not objecting on it specifically. $2,500. Nobody's objected to it. I just wanted to see it. All right. Oh, they still talking about this $2,500. We don't got to read all that, bro. Yeah, they even talk about it here. Like, what's the relevance of this shit? Like, it's just going on and on right here. I know the witness did so. So, Mr. Herman, Jack Harvey testified that I don't care what Jack Harvey testified. He didn't pay her anything. Damn. Man, they argue about this DA 6 for 30 pages. Oh, nah, we ain't gonna do no whole nah. That's tomorrow, y'all. Yeah, Brick Squad say go to the nah. I ain't doing that right now. Me said, please make sure my name don't show up, please. Yeah, we ain't doing that tonight. Plus, my phone getting low anyway. He said, please make sure my name not in it. Yeah, I might check the next pile out tomorrow. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I ain't reading another whole file. It's a quick one. Warning, call the police. Nah, I ain't even open it because then I'm going to read it. That thing just me just no good. Like 5 pages with Chroma formerly. Oh, ho, y'all. That's one thing about Brick Sprout. Brick Sprout know how to Brick Sprout know how to get me to stick around. He said it's only 5 pages, y'all. He said it's only 5 pages. Hold on, which one you want me to go to? You want me to go to? Hold on, let me see what key. Hold on, I'm gonna do it for y'all. I'm tired, but I'm gonna do it. I done already got all the way into it, man. It's only like 4 or 5 more pages though. Let me see. He said, my man said you gotta read it. So if he said you gotta read it, you gotta read it. Boy, how does fish grease? You know that. DC, you know that. USA, save for tomorrow. You did well today. Nah, he said this jump short. It is kind of short. I understand it is short though. Call back. The court, you need to give him the name and then he can confirm it. When you're talking about the second, yeah, confidential source that was working with the person we've described herein as confidential source number 1. All right, we got that. All right, yes. Are you talking about a person that went by the name CS2? Yes, sir. And if I call her confidential source number 2, yes, the rules apply. All right. I guess we can ride out. This is going to be the last one for the night, Jack. Here we go. It's finna be a moment. Oh, my goodness. All right, court, same thing. No disclosure of the name of the confidential source, too. All right, yes, ma'am. I have to take a break. All right, not close, not close. All right. Well, I'll let you keep asking questions till 11:30. All right. Did you tell CS1? Did you tell CS1 to advise the DEA in St. Louis in August of 2012 that Demetrius Flannery? Dang, we read all night just to get to this, huh? Somebody say I'm firing up. Did you tell Tammy to advise the DEA agents in St. Louis in August of 2012 that Demetrius Flannery was supposed to get a cut of the proceeds of drug transactions between Fidel Suarez and Dion Gatlin? Chroma says, no, she told me that. And then I imparted that information through initial discussions. But I believe that was before 2012. That was prior to August 2012 with that information. When I had my initial conversation, when I spoke to the agents out of St. Louis, I explained to them how the numbers came up, the information that was provided to the CS, and who provided CS1 with that information. Fuck that, Jay. Because the gentleman you just said, I don't know. The gentleman who say, I think they call him Meech or something. He lying. He know who the fuck Meech is. I believe that's his name. He was in prison with Fidel. And Fidel and him worked out an agreement that that Meech would set Fidel up with a friend of his, which is Cuff. to get together and sell drugs. So that's the only thing I knew. So when I talked to the agents in St. Louis, instead of me, I told them initially, but I asked them, did you want to speak to her, speak to CS1, which is Tammy? They said yes. Patched her through her phone, and the agent spoke to her themselves. So there was no reason for me to explain anything. We're done. We let St. Louis run the ball game from that point. Did you ever tell CS1 to lie to the DEA agents in St. Louis about anything concerning Dion Gatlin? No, sir. I didn't even know who. I want you to understand. I never seen him. I didn't even know what his name was. I just had the nickname Cuff. That's all I need. And so there was the court. Just answer the question, Agent Cromer. Okay. No, I never asked anyone to lie about anything. Did you participate in an interview with the government authorities on August the 19th of 2015? What date is that? August 19th, 2015. I think this goes back to on open record. Here, since we're not talking about the confidential informant or Mr. Welby, I was going to get into some of the protected material at that point. Okay, well then. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, Kieth Cromer. Group Supervisor Kieth Cromer, right. You can ask him about that. All right, the court, just tell me in general. Blah, 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 blah. Right now from my office, the court. All right. Let's get back to Cromer, the court. But it sounds like they relate the statements made by Cromer. All things that Agent Cromer already knows about. All right, boom. Well, that's the end of that one, y'all. Somebody say Meech, wow. That type of work is done with comrades. Well, that's it for the night, Jack. It's been one. Let me see what them other junks say at a later time, man. Man, I appreciate the love on the super chat. That's nasty work, huh, man? IMF. There you go. Now, where are the Meech defenders? I mean, I ain't gonna say that's a smoking gun. I mean, that's still the DEA talking. Appreciate y'all. It is what it is. It's interesting to me. I don't really care one way or another. But all that work right there, nasty work, bruh. Man, that's vicious. Go TV. Tammy know the agent is credible. Unless it came through her. It's the only way. I mean, we know it came through her, but the question is, was Meech with it? They dancing. They're declining. Oh, they're declining. $5K1. Ain't no $5K1 on there though. I ain't seen nothing about that in there, man. I don't know what you talking about. But that's it for me, Jack. Catch y'all tomorrow.